Here.
Commissioner Black,
Here.
Commissioner Eisen,
That's you, Adam.
I'm here.
and just as a reminder to everyone, please do not go off camera. If we have less than 3 commissioners on camera, we will lose a quorum and the meeting will end. So this is a reminder.
Good, thank you. All right, let's go on to approval of the minutes. There wasn't much of a meeting last time since we didn't have a quorum, but if you would, for a good chunk of the meeting, so if you would take a look, all the commissioners take a look at the minutes, see if there's anything that you think needs to be on there that isn't on there, those people who were here, and otherwise, let's get a motion to approve the minutes.
Yeah, I've reviewed the minutes already. I propose that we approve the minutes.
All right.
Second.
Good,
I'll second.
Yeah. All right. Everyone in favor of approving the minutes, let's have a
Roll call.
yeah, let's have a roll call on that, Jonathan. Gonna keep you busy.
Chair Eisen,
Yes.
Vice Chair Stamper,
Yes, although I wasn't there, so I don't know if technically I can approve them.
You got a copy of them.
Okay. All right. As long as the copy's enough.
Commissioner Black,
Here, yes.
and Commissioner Eisen.
Yes.
All right. Minutes have been approved. Let's go on to announcements and correspondence.
I have 2 announcements. The first one is just a heads up. You probably already know this, but on April 15th, the California Coastal Commission approved or certified the approved local coastal land use plan. Sorry, I've got to get a phone. 1 second.
Okay.
That's a big deal, though. Many years in the making. LCP approval.
I apologize. That phone is loud. The LCLUP was approved, adopted, or certified by the California Coastal Commission. As you know, that really opens the door for a lot of positive change in the city, and hopefully will be in place for 25 to 30 years. And it's really the culmination of decades of work by elected officials, staff, and community members. So big deal, exciting, and it allows us to do our work as well. Any questions on that? The only other announcement I have is just, as I think you all know, anyone 16 and up is now eligible for a COVID vaccine here in California. And this Friday, there will be a vaccine clinic at Coastside Hope in El Granada. You can contact them or go to their website to register, or I believe they've had enough supply that people could drop in. So it seems like we've kind of reached a tipping point here where if you're eligible for a vaccine, which is everybody except for children, and you want the vaccine, you should be able to find one. People have really started to be able to find them, and that's great news. And I think you know that some of the mask rules have changed and eased for outdoor use. And we are keeping our fingers crossed that the governor will be able to hold fast to his promise and reopen the economy fully on June 15th.
Very good. Speaking of that, a little bit, the mask thing, are we looking at the possibility, that we might do this meeting instead of Zoom, doing it, gather it for next month?
No, we will not pursue live meetings. There was a similar discussion at the Planning Commission yesterday. Until the City Council makes the decision to go live. There's additional dynamics that come into play of going back to live meetings, and until those get worked out, we'll continue to do this remotely. So we'll keep you posted. I'm sure at some point we'll have an idea of when that'll be, and we can start planning for that.
Okay, good. Anyone else have any announcements or anything like that? No?
I'm happy to keep these meetings virtual as long as
Okay. So public comments. Do we have any public?
We don't have any public comments.
Okay, let's move on. Staff informational reports, city council updates.
Thank you, Chair. I will make this brief. Since our last meeting, we've had 2 city council meetings on April 6th. There's just a few items that were of consequence to this commission. The first was at that meeting, we had a presentation from the Mid-Peninsula Regional Open Space District. They talked about some of the work that they're doing and some of their plans going forward. It was a really good discussion with the council. There was a lot of discussion about the interplay of trails and open space use and farmlands and ag uses. And I believe that going forward, we're going to see more discussions about that. I wasn't aware of this, but there is some level of, I don't want to say friction, but tension, healthy tension between people who advocate for agricultural uses in the farming community and the open space and recreation community. I think it's definitely something we're going to want to keep in mind going forward, that at some point, if we're thinking about something that might have implications on agricultural land, that we'd want to do some outreach and get some representatives from the agricultural community to meet with us and talk us through some of those, some of that tension. The other items that were really important for that meeting, the City Council has approved a reorganization of the Bike Ped Advisory Committee, both its composition and the number of members, and we're actively taking applications for membership on that committee, and I believe that will actually be extended a little bit longer. So if you know anybody who's interested, that cares a lot about trails and bike and pedestrian issues, that they should apply, and they can do that on our website. And then the council solidified some of its planning for the upcoming election, which, as you know, is district-based next fall. And even though we just created those districts a few years ago, there is a law that says following any census, we have to reevaluate our districts and reset them. And we pushed back to say, look, we just did it, but to no avail. So we are in the process of exploring the district makeup right now. Can't go into full reevaluation until after the census information has been released. But the council did decide, rather than doing it completely internally, they will be forming an advisory committee of community members who will help develop the recommended maps and make some of the decisions. Jonathan, you're heavily involved in that. Is there anything else you'd like to share on that item?
So it's the advisory committee, the items going, it's scheduled to go to the city council on May 4th, I believe, our next meeting. And I believe that the council is going to have a 7-person committee, but we'll have to wait and see what they approve on the 4th. But as soon as that's approved, recruitment will begin the next day, and the city will be sending out advertisements to willing to serve forms. So we have nothing official yet, but as soon as that's approved, if it is approved on the 4th, we'll be moving pretty quickly.
And then, of course, that's of consequence to you all because you're appointed by the council members. Although we don't do the appointments by district, just each council member has an appointment they can make. So if you know folks that are interested, please let them know about it. There are some restrictions about the ability for individuals to run for public office after they've been involved in it. So it's important people read up on it and understand all the requirements before they apply. April 20th, we had a meeting, and a couple other items that I think are important to you. The Youth Leadership Institute, which is a nonprofit over on the Bay side that we work with quite a bit. They help youth, especially high school and middle-aged youth, middle school-aged youth, get involved in important issues in the community and really engage civically, attending city council meetings and other public meetings. They requested, and we worked with them to create a resolution designating April of 2021 as Friday Night Live month. And Friday Night Live is a program to encourage youth to get involved in activities that take them away from some of the poor choices that youth often make, you know, especially around drugs and alcohol. You know, right now, obviously we're not holding activities and events, but I certainly think next year we should be fully open. And I think it'd be really important for us as a commission and as a department to partner with YLI to organize some events to support the Friday Night Live month and create some events that the youth can participate in that are safe and sober. The art deaccessioning policy, which you have provided input on in the last couple of meetings, was approved by the council, and we'll be moving forward with a request for your consideration for probably the relocation of the Half Moon statue at the end of Main Street, where the new highway interchange is going in right now. And if you haven't been down there, it's pretty exciting. The project's really coming together, and you can really see what it's going to look like. The only other thing I wanted to add from that meeting is that the council adjourned that meeting in memory of former Assembly member Gene Mullen, who passed away recently. And he had a lot of ties to the coast and did a lot of work for the coast. And so some of you may have known him or know his family. His son, Kevin, of course, is our current Assembly member for parts of the coast. So,
Yeah.
And that's all I have for my report,
Interesting.
unless there's any questions.
Yeah, I just want to ask a question about the bike and ped, you know, before, and I hope this is still true, is that we had someone from the Parks and Rec Commission on that committee. We had someone from the Planning Commission on that committee. We also had someone from the school district on that committee. I really feel that those three things, if nothing else, are really important in terms of having representation from those different commissions and whatnot onto the Bike and Pedestrian Access Committee.
John Dowdy, our Public Works Director, is here, and he could probably fill you in more. But my understanding is those seats on the committee no longer exist. And my understanding is it's because we're past the planning and kind of brainstorming and idea stage and into implementation, which is a little bit different approach.
The school, if I could, the school district seat remains. The Planning Commission and the Parks and Rec seat were removed and adjusted around. I'm happy to send to Matthew the staff report that went to the council a few weeks ago on that, with it in the background on all of that.
Okay, I'm not sure. I still think, especially with trails and anything like that, I think it's kind of important to have representation from those two commissions on that committee.
I think we went through this at the BPAC itself, and we had a conversation. I think it's covered in the staff report. I will just say again, for the record, for here, you know, when we formed that and created those positions, it was for the purpose of, in essence, creating the bike pedestrian and the parks master plan, and mainly the bikes pedestrian plan, which was a larger perspective. Now we're into more detailed, more focused issues. And frankly, those will come before the Planning Commission and or Parks and Recreation Commission. So everybody gets their bite at it. I think everything will be served,
Okay.
and the council agreed with that. But I'm happy to share where they landed.
I'll send you the staff report, Paulette.
Thanks.
Okay, great. All right, let's go to recreation updates.
Okay, great. I have a few quick recreation updates for you. The first one's regarding programming. I mentioned a few meetings back that for the last about 8 months, we've only had 2 contracted instructors that were hosting classes because they needed to be outside and their curriculum needed to be conducive to being outdoors. So we only had a few instructors that were interested in coming back. Well, as of a few weeks ago and the announcement of the proposed statewide opening mid-June, we've now got 11 instructors back. So we've increased. So that's good news. Once the announcement hit, everyone
Congratulations. That's good.
Thank you. Thanks. Everyone was really eager to come back, really excited. So most of those classes are set to start the end of June, early July. But it's great. It's great news. We get to see some of our favorite classes, our popular classes come back. Our Coastside Orchestra, which is a group of about 35 plus people that were performing every Wednesday at the community center, are now coming back. Our couples ballroom dancing. We just have a lot of our favorite great classes are coming back. So it's really, really awesome news. That being said, we've also brought on a few summer camps after the announcement. So a lot of our instructors that typically would host summer camps are now interested in coming back and have scheduled their sessions through us. So that's a science-based camp with some STEM elements involved. It's called Mad Science of the Bay. That's a 3-week camp for kids. We also have a Tiny Tykes soccer 3-week camp that we'll be hosting, and that's geared towards kids that are about 3 to 6, really, really young. And then we have our Cooking Around the World 4-week camp, which will be utilizing our brand new renovated kitchen at the community center. So it's things are looking on the up and up for recreation. Also great news, we've decided that after the announcement that we're going to go ahead and set up registration and scheduling for our adult softball leagues. 2 falls ago, we did that for the first time through the city's recreation department, and it was really successful. So successful that we could have made it bigger if we knew. Well, we had planned for that last fall. Obviously, it didn't happen. So we're just carrying that over into this fall, and we're doubling our softball league. So we'll be doing 2 days a week of co-ed adult softball, 1 day of women's adult softball, and 1 day men's adult softball. So also great news, it'll be starting at Smithfields on August 9th. So it'll be a 10-week softball session. Really excited about that. We've also scheduled our Concerts in the Park series for this summer. We selected the 4 Saturdays in August to host our 4 Concerts in the Park at Mac Dutra. And for the performers for that series, basically what we've done is we've taken those musicians that we hired for last year that we had to cancel and gave them the first right of refusal for this year. And lucky for us, they all wanted to come back, and basically just had to switch out the dates and brand new contract, and they were all happy and eager to get out and playing again. So
how are we doing with diversity in the musicians that you've contracted with?
Well, that's the beauty of it, is that we did that work last year, based on the direction of the commission.
So that's all good. Okay, good.
And there are a few people that weren't here, so I'll just kind of summarize. So essentially the commission wanted us to focus on, when looking at booking bands and performers, that we keep in mind that we want to be as diverse as possible, culturally, ethnically, and in regards to gender. So and we did that last year, so it really worked out. So we just took those all bands and brought them back to this summer. So it's copy and paste. It's really easy. It's exciting. We have a Beatles tribute band, so that'll be great. We also have a band Matthew's familiar with, Native Elements from the coast side, and a couple others. Paulette, you and Pat both know the West Coast Ramblers. They're one of the groups that are performing as well. So really excited about that. And I mentioned earlier before the meeting that we picked a date for Summer's End. That'll be held on Saturday, September 25th at John Carter Park.
No good.
Well, we'll have to talk offline. And
It's
bar
really
mitzvah.
no good.
we know the printer, so they can add it at the bottom. Okay, well, we'll talk about it, Paulette. We haven't published too much, but we published a little bit. But we can talk about it.
We did pick that date trying to coordinate around some Jewish high holidays, so we'll figure it out.
We did. Okay, and that brings me to that promotion. In the past, historically, and you guys have probably all seen it, we promote our programs and our recreation offerings through the activity guide. That's something that we do 3 times a year. For the size of our department and our city, it's a pretty substantial activity guide. It's 25 or so, 30 pages, times 11,000 copies 3 times a year. We obviously didn't do that last year because we didn't have enough offerings to necessitate an activity guide. So we purely just advertise and promoted through online means and social media. Well, now that we're coming back, we're looking at what's the activity guide look like. In the past, Matthew and I have had quite a few discussions about basically the carbon footprint that we're leaving just from our department in regards to that activity guide and the resources that it requires to send out and create. And it's just a lot of paper and a lot of trees. And so we're using this new session as kind of a piloting opportunity to send out a more condensed activity guide. So rather than the 30-page, 11 by 8.5 size book, we're going to do a smaller brochure. And what we've done is we've basically just indicated what classes and what programs we're offering, as well as the softball leagues and the special events and concerts in the park. And then we direct them to go and find out more and register online. Matt Nichols got us a QR code, which we've placed on there. So folks are able just to take that, scan it, and they're sent right to the city's recreation webpage.
Wow.
Now, we also on there know some people might not have smartphones, and we've indicated that if you don't have access to a smartphone or a computer, you can always come down to the community center and get an actual physical copy of an activity guide. But we really think that both environmentally and fiscally, this could be a way that we start going, leaning farther away from all the paper and more to mainstream, online, digital. So that being said,
I think that's a good idea to try that.
Yeah,
Good.
and just so everybody knows, when the community center was built, it was actually built by the county and then deeded over to the city. And some of the requirements were that we would offer recreation programming to the entire coast side. And as part of that, they actually are contractually committed to give us funding every year, a small amount of funding. And so to Eddie's point, 11,000 guides, we would mail basically a magazine to every single address from Devil's Slide to, I don't think it went to Pescadero, but from Devil's Slide to the south end of Half Moon Bay. And we're committed to continuing to offer classes to that many people. But I think Eddie's really come up with a pretty ingenious idea here to keep offering it, but in so many ways, do it in a smarter way.
Yeah, I like that for sure. I think that's
Wait, I have a question on that one. Is it worthwhile to, I love the idea. Is it worthwhile to send, are we going to still send out like a reminder or like a little thing that tells people that that this is the way we're going? The same time the guide would usually come out, so people know to look for it, type of thing, or how do we announce it to the people that are used to receiving these things? Or can we put it in? We already put out a community newsletter 4 times a year. Can we put it in there? To me, it's like every time that pamphlet came out, I don't need that pamphlet. I can easily go online, but it gave me the information. Oh, it's time to register again. Like, let's look at all the things.
Okay,
How do we...
let me clarify and make sure that I understand what you said, Eddie, so that it might answer Adam's question. You're saying you will be sending something out, but it will be some kind of condensed, maybe 1 page or just a list of classes. And in it, you'd be directing people to the website for the full activity guide so that they could look at everything. So everyone, 11,000 people are still going to receive something. It's just not going to be the big booklet that you have been sending in the past.
correct. And it's going to look just like this, a regular brochure size. If you take a regular piece of paper sideways, tri-fold it, that's what it'll look like. And Adam, we're actually, those are going to the post office tomorrow afternoon. So they should be in mailboxes by Monday. But what we'll do, I'll even start tonight, is I'll jump on Facebook next door and just let folks know, kind of like you said, a heads up that it's coming. Because if they're like me and they see anything that's not addressed to me, it goes right in the trash. So I'll definitely do that tonight, and we'll start working on that outreach over the weekend.
Well, that's perfect. Perfect. I love it. I love the approach.
Good, good, good. Okay, if that's it for you, Eddie, then I have a question.
Sure.
Wait. Before, we got to give Eddie some credit. That's a lot of stuff right there. That's a lot of ground he's been covering. I appreciate it. That's fantastic. That's a lot of good updates. That's very exciting for the community. So thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you, Adam. And you got to be out there for co-ed again this year too.
Yeah, no question. I'm going to get the word out.
All right.
Okay, so my question on recreation is there anything in the programming coming up that involves the pool at the high school?
Matthew?
That's something that I'll be working towards, but based on the conversations we've had with the high school and what was unknown at the time that we would have needed to make those plans, because there will be a lot of lead time needed for that. We weren't able to make plans for that this year. I'll give you a 90% guarantee we will have something next summer. Because
I want 100%. Now I'm
No,
upset that there's nothing this year.
It's not our pool. I'm not kidding.
We've been talking about this since I've been on the commission.
Yes.
And so not to have anything this year and then for you to just give me 90% next year, no, I need 100%.
I'll tell you what, Paulette.
Yeah.
You get me a pool that you can guarantee we can use. I'll guarantee 100% we'll have aquatics next year.
I mean, this is definitely one of the reasons that I joined the planning commission, or this commission, is because I feel like the city of Half Moon Bay should have resources for the community that don't rely on the schools. And a pool is one of those things that I feel like we don't have. And so then we have to rely on the schools. It's the same with the soccer fields. It's all school-based, and the amount of politics that goes into negotiating activities that are so beneficial for our community and building relationships and all that stuff, it becomes contentious and really, really ugly. And so I think it's so important that we find ways that the city of Half Moon Bay can do more to provide these resources.
We agree with you 100%. Although I will say our relationship with the school district is 180 degrees from what it's been in the past. We have, and with the Boys and Girls Club, we're in a really good place. Everybody's committed to working together. But again, until we've done it once, I can't guarantee anything. But I believe, okay, I'll give you a 95%, Paulette. 95% we'll have aquatics next year. And then I would say, Hillary, if that's something you're passionate about, our friend Maria's on here. You can connect with the Friends of Half Moon Bay Parks and Rec and work with their committee for building a new pool.
But I will say also that every place I've lived in, Hillary, just to get to your point, every recreation department in any city I have lived in, and it's numerous, have always used the school facilities for all kinds of things. And it's been a shock being here in Half Moon Bay that we've had such little access to what is a public facility, which is our schools. And so I've been really happy since Sean has come on board, our new he's no longer new, but the superintendent, when he took over, things started to get much better in terms of communication, cooperation, all those kind of things. So I'm really happy about that, but I need the city, obviously, to step up and make these things happen, okay? Because these kids, our kids, need to be able to go and get swimming lessons, do swim time. I mean, this is a really important part of growing up, is being able to have access to the pool.
Great. And if it wasn't for COVID, we would have had aquatics last summer. We were on a path to it. And then when we came into this summer, there was too much up in the air a few months ago when we would have been planning for it, and they just wouldn't commit to it. But again, I think we'll be in a place next year where it won't be an issue.
Good.
I mean, it's definitely great that at least junior lifeguards is happening. So
yes,
there will be some swimming opportunities for kids that are, it's just outstanding.
Yes.
I had to give an unfortunate update to the Friends at one of their meetings recently. The city of San Bruno is rebuilding. They have a really incredible but very outdated recreation center in their main city park. Growing up, I'd go play basketball there. I went swimming there. They have a pool. They have gyms. They're rebuilding that to the tune of, I think, $75 million. And the only reason they're paying for it, PG&E settlements from the gas pipeline explosion.
Oh, well, yeah.
And
Wow.
they tried to squeeze, they're doing an indoor pool as part of that project. They tried to squeeze an outdoor pool because I think they got over 100 million from the settlement. So they thought, well, if we had 25 more million, we could build another pool. And so they had the architect do a conceptual design, and the estimates came back $50 million to build an outdoor pool.
Wow.
And so they walked away from the second pool concept. So unfortunately, that's the other problem is we've got an old, outdated school pool that is hard to get access to for a variety of reasons, but maintenance is tough for the school district. And then you add on top of that the fact that building something new is going to be, I think that's more expensive than the event center that was built at Cunha was. And that's more than double what the library was. So we're not talking about, rallying the community together. I mean, there has to be a regional effort to make something happen.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, I think we're ready to move on to the Parks Master Plan implementation. And thank you, by the way, Matthew, for that update, and as well as Eddie. Good stuff. All right, let's go to the Parks Master Plan implementation.
I feel like the harbinger of doom now after that conversation about the money. But let me go from there. I'm John Dowdy, the Public Works Director. Thank you for letting me be here tonight. It's a pleasure. And let me share my screen. I'm going to start with the capital improvements program. I think it will answer a lot of the questions on the implementation piece of the plan. And then we can talk about anything beyond that point and since they're together. So I'd like to, if I can, share the screen and go into a little PowerPoint. And I think it'll pretty much get us down the road. So let's hope. Boom. Why am I? And sorry. I can figure. This has been weird. Okay. So sorry. This should. Hopefully that's the right one.
It looks good.
Am I sharing?
You are.
Yes, you are.
Super duper, and that exactly is the right one. Wow. Okay. So.
But if you wouldn't mind going to slideshow view, John.
Yeah, that's what I'm afraid of, because it was doing some weird things when I went into slideshow view. But let's see what it does. Is it still there?
What it does
it's
is
still
showing
there.
the next slide. Here's what you do, John. Get out of that.
Yeah.
Go to slideshow at the top, middle,
Yeah.
and go to set up slideshow. Middle, just go down and over to the left a little bit.
Set up slideshow.
And then click browsed by an individual, up one, and then click OK. Now when you go to slideshow view, it'll be normal.
Hey, you the man, you the man.
Tech support.
All right, I'm too old for this.
Too experienced.
And and now I'm trying to figure out whether I wear the new reading glasses or I wear my progressives and everything, because I can't find the right deal. So I'm going reading glasses. It's no fun. Okay. So again, tonight, thank you. I want to talk about the capital improvement program for fiscal year 21-22, and the focus tonight will be on parks and it'll be on trails in particular. We can talk a little bit about the other things, but the focus tonight are on those two issues. So the big picture on this. From the CIP, basically the capital improvement program, it's a planning and budgeting tool that allows for us to look at now and in the future what our capital needs may be and are, as it may be. We have, because we're a smaller city, have tended to put projects and capital items of around 30,000. Sometimes that's 50. Sometimes in some agencies 100,000. We picked 30,000 because it's really where we start to depreciate an improvement. So that's what that is. So from our capital improvement program, there are 8 categories, and these are pretty straightforward and where they are. And again, tonight, what we were really focusing on is 4 and 8, the park improvements and trail improvements. What are some of the kind of ongoing challenges that we have? Well, obviously, we're still in the transition phase out of the pandemic, and there are a lot of unknowns in terms of just what's going to happen, how the economy reacts, and we cannot crystal ball those completely. Last year, our capital allocation was cut to $900,000 for the fiscal year. This year, we are looking at approximately 2.5 million or so is what the council has been looking at. We may adjust some of that, but that's a pretty significant increase in what the council has willingness to consider and deal with. So that's good news. What does that mean for, though, in the other pieces of that, which is that of the 8 categories that are in the CIP, 7 of those categories directly compete for very limited general fund dollars. And I don't think I have to point it out, but I will anyway, that 42% of the general funds are derived from room taxes, or TOT, transient occupancy tax. And those have been a little difficult to guess what they're going to do post-COVID. We've seen some improvements, but we've not seen all the improvements we'd like to see, and therefore the entire budgeting for the city is going to be a little wonky again this year, moving forward. So just be prepared. That's the reality of where we are. And how does that affect us? Again, that may or may not result in perhaps additional or lowering of the general fund allocations to the capital projects. And ultimately, what this means also is that there's just competing interest. And, you know, this community supports its parks, supports its trails, but it also supports having, you know, other services and that often are competing for the same pool of general fund dollars. This community likes to be, you know, to feel safe. And so there are things that come along with feeling safe and secure. And so all of those things are competing, and that's a challenge, an issue for all of us. So let me talk about trails first. So fiscal year 21-22, there is a category in the CIP that's the Bicycle and Pedestrian Master Plan Implementation Program. And so our CIP is a little different than maybe some capital improvement programs that you might look at down in other areas. But we created programs and then we created projects. And the background to that is that we were really struggling when I first came here to address and deal with the backlog of maintenance, of basic sort of capital maintenance projects and efforts. And so we had focused all on sort of a specific project and not really on having a pool of money in the program, which would allow us to react and respond to things like the major windstorm damage we had at Smithfield. So we were able to do major improvements there to put the roofs back on, the dugouts, and do a number of things there without having to worry about having to go back to council and say, hey, we need more money in our maintenance budget and everything. So there was a reason for that. And then the CIP includes specific projects. And what we have is a 5-year program or 5-year plan. Year 1 is budgeted by the council. Years 2, 3, 4, and 5 are fuzzy. There's projects listed under them. And obviously, as we get further out into years 4 and 5, there are fewer and fewer projects because there is a fewer and fewer dollars available that we could actually literally commit to those projects. So, but it doesn't mean that they shouldn't be there, and we shouldn't identify them as a want and as a need for the future. So I'm primarily going to focus tonight on year 1, basically what we are asking the council to program and fund for trails and parks. We can come back frankly at another time to basically talk about what those outer years, and we can continue to modify and deal with that. And again, I expect some input on that tonight in terms of what maybe some of those other projects are. And look, I know Hillary, we've talked about beach volleyball, I know, and things of that nature. I think there's other things out there. You mentioned the pool. There's a lot of desires for specific facilities and things, and we certainly know that. The projects out there is Poplar Beach Gateways Plan, which we put under trails simply because much of that project really includes the adaptation strategies for the coastal trail and for the other pieces of that trail, including the equestrian. It fits both categories to some extent, but I just put them here to make it as easy as possible, I think, for what really is probably the biggest piece at this point that we're looking at. East Side Parallel Trail North, which is we call segment 4, which is the area from where it terminates on the north side, out by Rocket Farms area, and it would extend the trail northward to roughly Murata, or the city limit, which would connect to a trail which the county is working on, which would connect that trail into Granada Elementary School, and ultimately the plan is to connect into the other piece of trail and all the way into the harbor at least. Poplar Street Parallel Path, we know that this is one that's been out there. We are in design. We're hoping to get constructed earlier than this, but frankly, we just got to the point where we were just going to be interfering with the summer crush of people, and we just didn't want to get into that. So we're looking at fall for actually construction of that path and repair and replacement of the entire trail. And that's the one that runs from Railroad to Coastal Trail. And that includes also speed tables. So we'll have 2 to 3 speed tables to reduce traffic, speeds and do traffic calming in the section, what would be basically from the gate into where the Poplar Beach parking lot is. Secondary Poplar Beach access, which is the slot access, most people know it by that, where the horses are going down, would be basically stabilizing that, repairing that, and basically making it look more like what we did, perhaps without the steps themselves for the Poplar primary access point. And then the East Side Parallel Trail, which is we call segment 1, which is part of the Highway 1 North Safety Project, and that would run a multi-purpose trail from North Main Street to Spindrift along the north side. So in all of this, what we're looking at is basically 4 segments total. This plan gets us moving down the road for 3 of the 4 segments. The last remaining segment is the toughest one, which would be a bridge over Frenchman's Creek. And we have actually been looking for money for that, but that's going to be a longer term proposition. So unfortunately, we would love to do that. So those are the basic trail improvements. Within the master plan implementation program, there are pieces that we're anticipating doing under that. You won't see these listed specifically except in the sheets, and you'll see them discussed. We're already working on, we have grant funds, and we're using some other funds to do class 4 bike lanes along Main Street, and these are going to be these separated with the delineators along Main Street. We're also looking at some bike pedestrian improvements to downtown area, including the Sharo areas for the bikes on the Johnston Street side at Mill Street, and areas in downtown, and running over to the library. And that was also circulated. Both of those projects were circulated to the B packet in months past. Then we have installation of pavement markings and signage on the coastal trail, primarily Poplar to Kelly segment. This is something the BPAC had discussed and met over and agonized over for several meetings. And so this is something that we're going to put together a package and try to do some of these things. Their concerns, and legitimately, I think so, are some of the issues of speed, people not dismounting when probably they should dismount in certain areas where there's way too many people, things of that nature to deal with. So, and getting some of the markings and again, informing people how to actually use the trail as a pedestrian and a bicycle. And finally, looking at repair of the coastal trail. And this is the area near the 16th green on the old course there. It's right after the bridge and between where you get to the trail. It's a pretty ragged area. We've had this on our list, and it's time that we go and deal with this and fix it. It's just a difficult fix in terms of what the strategy and also getting to it. So, but that's, so those are things. So when you look at and you just say, gosh, it doesn't look like we're doing anything on the bike pedestrian master plan, it isn't all that way, because there's all of these things too that are in there. Hillary.
John?
Yeah, thank you.
Through the chair.
Okay, Hillary?
So for the installation of pavement markings and signage, is that going to be before then they work on the actual like trail improvements and stuff? That seemed like it was one of the top 2 items, or is that part of that?
Can you clarify? I don't want to misspeak.
So there's the Poplar Beach project, which was like working on the coastal trail between Kelly and Poplar. And that involved like some work to help protect the coastal trail from erosion and stuff like that, right? So that's one of the 2. So I thought I understood that that was one of the items near the top, and it seemed.
Oh, she's frozen.
Lock up.
Yeah.
We've had that all day.
Hillary, if you can hear us, try turning off your camera. You're frozen.
Sorry, could you hear me? Everything went kind of crazy.
No.
I think I get. Let me try to answer it, and you'll tell me if I got it, if I got it wrong. So we have the Poplar Gateways plan is now reactivated. The council reactivated that plan for the coming months, and we're hoping to finish that probably fall, September-ish is what we'd like to finish the environmental impact report and finalize the plan itself and get those approved and dealt with that. And that's what basically is the overarching environmental document and design document for what we would like to do big picture at Poplar Gateways, which includes moving the trail inland a little bit and dealing with adaptation strategies. We realize that that piece of that one is extremely expensive and unfunded. So we still have to take care of the existing path and trail and try to retain it as long as we can and make it continue to be safe and effective for people to use. So the signage and some of these other markings and some of these things are in relation to basically just dealing with basic safety and improvement of the existing trail. Our hope is some of those can be reused when we get to the point, but if not, they're not huge investments with it. Now, we submitted a grant with the Department of Boating and Waterways a couple of 3 months ago, I guess now. They're actually coming out for a walkthrough and visit with us on that. And that would include some work and dealing with some of the areas where we have the erosion. And it would be a part of that bigger picture bluff stabilization and revegetation and things and everything like that. So that's exciting, but that we won't even know about whether we get the money until next probably March, April, somewhere in that line.
And along those lines, we've had conversations with our state and federal legislators about other opportunities for funding, because that is going to be a massive project that's going to take a lot of funding. So we're starting to, you got to have a plan before you can really ask for the money. And so we're putting ourselves in a position to be more competitive for funding going forward.
And that that phase one piece that we submitted for the Department of Boating and Waterways was around roughly $2 million, call it $2 million for fund. And that did not include any reconstruction, major reconstruction of the path itself. That was just doing earth moving around and trying to get the stormwater or drainage places to not create the problems that we're having. And it would fix some of the areas of the trail to try to make sure that they're safe and accessible. But it's an expensive proposition. Does that answer?
Yep. Thank
Great.
you.
Okay.
All right, John, I do have a question though
Sure.
about your previous slide. I'm still trying to figure out where that last repair of coastal trail, of course, as far as I'm concerned, the whole coastal trail needs to be repaired, but where is this particular area?
Oh gosh, I can pull up.
I can
Google
answer
Earth.
It's when you're biking towards the Ritz-Carlton, right? That spot.
Yes, it's where the bridge is over the 16th, over the 16th,
Oh,
17th
that-
green there.
Oh, that,
There's that
okay.
Yeah, that-
funky with the trees and everything. in
Correct.
there.
Oh, great.
That's that
Yeah.
spot.
That's good. That's good. Okay,
Okay.
thank you.
Sorry.
That's all. No worries.
Thanks, Adam. Thanks,
Yeah,
Adam.
I'm here to help. I'm here to help. Hey,
And
one-
we've talked about that over the years. So
we
yeah,
have.
it's just not an easy one to fix.
Yeah.
Is there any combination of the Ritz-Carlton and that? Is that all us?
Funny you should ask. There's actually some question there as to whether perhaps the Ritz-Carlton has at least some share of the cost of that repair. It's one of the reasons I'm holding a little bit on it, because I'm asking the city attorney to review the documents that created that trail and the easements there. And so I'm hopeful that it's at least a shared. There are documents that I have in the city's possession that indicates that it might be a shared responsibility of both the city and the Ritz-Carlton. So I'm
Well,
hoping
again, I think it's in their best interest to.
I think we all
to
agree.
help with that, because their guests, of
Yeah.
course, really like to go on the trail, hikes and walks, and so this would be to their benefit.
Well, and
Yeah.
they are not to plug for them, but they are in the process or have been in the process of repairing and replacing concrete in the area there, which is part of the coastal trail, by their outdoor area and by the 18th green of the old course. So that is an area they absolutely have responsibility for, and they accept that responsibility. I don't think we have ever said we think we have a shared responsibility. So I'm not going to hold them accountable for something that I don't think we've ever asked them to even participate with. But we're going to look at it and deal with it, and we'll go from there.
I love it. It is
So
the
this is just
entryway.
This is
Can I
just
ask you a question?
an easy Google Earth of the segments of that the North Trail, the easterly North Trail there. And so you can see where basically those are: segment 1, segment 2, segment 3, segment 2, the green one, is the area that we're going to have the biggest challenge funding and dealing with, because that has the bridge. But we did actually ask as part of the infrastructure asks from our representatives, from Jackie Spear in particular, for funding to support this, as well as some other improvements there. We'll see what happens. I'm not horribly optimistic, but at least it gets out on the radar screen.
John, may I ask a question?
Yeah. If you ask your mom.
Yeah, Mom, may I ask a question?
Yes, go ahead.
All right. So I love this list, and I'm very happy to see it. My question is, just so I understand, was this prioritized by more or less, staff, or like you guys, which would be ideal as well, the Parks and Rec master plan, or kind of like a combination, or was it council that prioritized these, or how did you decide on these particular projects, just out of curiosity?
So first and foremost, we always look at the master plan And because that was developed with the BPAC, went through the Planning Commission, went through the community at Parks and Rec, saw that. So, and the council adopted that. So that really is the document that establishes what our priorities are. And there are multiple priority projects in there. What we do is try to align funding availability and funding sources to those priority projects that have been identified. And then we kind of look at, moving them around and juxtaposition of those to align those in part with other projects and leverage them. So I say that because if you go back to, say, East Side Parallel Trail Segment 1, that's being leveraged with the larger project, which is being funded in part by impact fees from Pacific Ridge, from funding from SMC, the TA, the San Mateo County Transportation Authority, local funds, and we hope maybe some other funds that come into that. So that's how those things kind of happen. But they are, like every other project in the CIP, they are evaluated by staff, and they're part of their criteria. Number one is that we're not we're not looking at a loss of grant funding or other funding sources, and they're not at risk. So that's the number one issue, is that we try to bring those projects up, and then we go and look at benefit to the community. We look at safety issues. And so those are the categories we look at and prioritize. No different than when you were on council. The same categories of priorities were used to do these and work these. What I can say is these are either carryover for the most part from 2021, or they were in the 2021 plan and we had to pull them out and we've now reprogrammed them, or they were in line prior to that to come into this point, basically in like year 2 or 3 of the capital improvement program. So for the most part, these have been in the CIP for a number of years, frankly.
No, it's great. It's great to see them. One last question.
Mm-hmm.
The Poplar Streets piece, does that include the east, and I just can't remember, the east side of Poplar, where there's the light now, but there's no real road for, especially for people for Seacrest?
That's a separate project, but that's in the street. That's in the streets project, but that is back into funding. We have grant funding for that. We're in the process of finishing up design to come out for that, but that's the complete streets project.
Okay.
And yes, that includes to Main Street.
Okay.
So it runs from Main Street to Railroad. Now, the reality that we're dealing with is that we do not have enough grant monies to fund that entirety of all the improvements there, and dealing with that. We obviously have heard very clearly we're going to preserve the trees there in Poplar. I don't want to leave anybody thinking otherwise, and trying to keep the aesthetic. So that's a project we need to get designed, and then we can figure out how much we can build and where we should build with the community and say, how do we prioritize this? Okay.
Can I talk too?
Yes, Hillary, go ahead.
Just one comment that I just think it's important that part of the plan, if you're separating east and west, people should be thinking about how those two things will fit together. I know there's been some discussion about treating them like two completely separate sort of feelings. And I don't know that I don't know. I think that should be thought carefully about, and probably you guys are, but I'm not.
We agree.
Yeah,
we agree, but we are to some extent locked a little bit on that side by already sort of a more traditional, or what post-war traditional sidewalk street kind of deal. But I we're not trying to make a really boring and mono tone kind of look with that deal. They should tie together, but they will function slightly differently. And anyway, but we're looking at them together. They're being designed together. We're looking at them together. Okay. Thanks.
Oh, John.
So,
okay.
Okay, you ready?
Yeah.
So the second piece to talk about tonight with you folks is basically the park improvements. And so like the trails, there's also an implementation program for the Parks Master Plan. And then again, and those have smaller pieces, and I'll talk to those in the next slide. And then there are basically sort of the larger projects that are identified specifically in as their own separate projects because they reach a certain kind of threshold or price point with that. I'm happy to announce tonight, as part of the deal, we are looking at within 4 to 6 weeks having construction underway for finishing up the Frenchman's Creek play equipment installation, the rubberized surface, and we'll do landscaping around that area as well. And my staff have been doing, I think, a whiz bang job out there with replacing the split rail fencing in that area. So I'm extremely excited by that. I want to thank, hopefully they're watching, our friends at Half Moon Bay Parks. They have been doing an unbelievable job of fundraising, and so this is their contribution in fundraising is going to be a big part of why we're able to move this forward and push it up and start this work and hopefully complete it actually before we get to fiscal year 21-22, and that's our goal. But
That's
we'll see.
awesome.
We're close. We're really close to it, and we'll be right there at that point.
Have we,
also,
let me ask, sorry, may I
Yes,
jump in?
Adam.
First of all, that's awesome. Second of all, have we communicated, there were some vocal people in that community. Are they aware of, and I think Matthew, you definitely probably know these people. I can't remember the names off the top of my head, but, and they have some sort of, or they claim to have had some sort of HOA there as well.
Yeah.
Have we been able to communicate this great news to that? So we're proactively kind of like getting in front of it?
Not yet, but we will be reaching out to them with this plan. Yeah,
Cool.
what John's telling you now, you're the first to hear it.
You're literally getting today the news that we have the contractor on board, and he's scheduling us out. They're scheduling us out 4 to 6 weeks out. Hopefully it'd be the shorter time, but no more than 6 weeks out to do that work. So we will get it out. We'll get it out on e-news. We have a mailing list that we can certainly get it out there. And I think for the most part, the folks that were pretty vocal have maintained a relationship with us. We talk to them, we email with them. We will make sure they're aware of it, but because this is news you like to give to them.
This
right?
is good news. Yeah, it's like, come on. So on that same topic, I always think that we should take advantage of tooting our own horn, and you should make sure that once it's done, that maybe the mayor or something like that, there's a ribbon cutting and a little picture and the whole thing, because this is a big win. I mean, we should celebrate it, and we should advertise. I mean, in some ways, I would love to even advertise the parks. And sorry for totally not knowing the name exactly, but the fundraising arm of the parks, and maybe even advertising that in the article so people understand that it exists, and maybe more people can contribute. And here's this beautiful thing that's happening because of it, and boom, boom, boom.
And I'm guessing the folks that are going to be talking next after me are going to be very excited to hear that. And they'll be very happy to talk about that with it. We agree. Matthew, I'm not going to, I shouldn't take the we. It's really Matthew who has been working closely with their executive director and the folks there with his ties to the community. I just happen to be the lucky one who gets to deliver the good news. But the hard work was done behind the scenes by the friends and by Matthew, frankly, on our staff as well. So, but it's exciting news. We are also, for the next item there, our hope, and we are programming in the construction of phase 2, which, if you recall, was the swing set and landscaping, furniture, some signage, and we'd like to basically rebuild the parking lot there. Because it's marginally meeting any accessibility standards, and just improve that area there, which is the piece next door, right next to it, which is the kind of the play yard area. And so that's phase 2, and we have that programmed in for this coming year. And we are hoping that we can do a lot of that internally with our own staff. Some of it we'll have to farm out, but we're excited with that, and we hope to work with the friends to continue to fundraise and help work through with phase 2 as well. And finally, in the larger park improvement side, we're in the process now of working on conceptual design, environmental, and entitlement work for a portion of the Seymour Park, which is the community garden site that we're looking at right now. So we're doing all of that kind of work. There's programmed in, and and working closely with CFOG, and they're bringing money to the table as well, or so that's kind of a joint project with CFOG and the city.
This will be exciting. Some of the efforts around that park will be similar to what we did, Commissioner Black and Chair Ison around Carter Park, because the community garden piece is just one portion of the property we own there, but you don't just piecemeal a park together. And so we're going to be working on kind of a master plan. It won't be detailed, but master planning and doing some community engagement, getting some conceptual drawings done and getting the community involved. And of course, this commission will be involved every step of the way when we start moving that forward.
Chair Hillary has her hand up.
Hillary, go ahead.
Yeah, I think so it sounds like maybe there's not a lot developed yet on this plan, but I was curious to, like, I'm trying to understand if the main goal of the park then is a community garden, because it seems like that also could be a place for beach volleyball courts. And I was curious about how you would prioritize one or two of these things if you had to pick. And then also just flagging that there is, probably people know this, but there was great energy that community members have put into making these really cool bike things all over that park. And it's just lovely. And it certainly made me, when I was looking at it this weekend, really feel concerned about how people are going to feel if they lose that. So I'm curious about your thoughts on all those
John,
things.
I'll respond on this because I've been involved in this one. So to the first question, a community garden has been a council priority for several years, and that's kind of what drove work happening at this park. If it were not for the community garden having to shift away from Johnston House site, which was the preferred site originally, we probably would be a couple of years away from really looking at this park. That being said, and to your point, things like volleyball or other community amenities that we want to see in parks, those are all things that can be discussed as part of that master planning process. And the good news is it is a large property. It's not just that kind of mode area that we see when you're driving down Seymour. On the Magnolia side, we own about 3 times as much property. It's a big L-shaped parcel. And so there's going to be room for a lot of different features. And I think there's an opportunity to talk about things like the beach volleyball courts and other things the community's been kind of chomped at the bit for.
So if I could, I think the issue comes around in part the eucalyptus growth. And there's this, balancing act with that. What I can tell you is that the preponderance of the folks who call us and yell at us and yell at me and yell at Todd Seeley are get rid of those things. I worry about them. I'm scared of them, and they make a mess and they deal with it. But I'm not completely nuts, because I know as soon as we start talking about cutting them down, there will be folks who will take significant issue. And certainly we have to be concerned about raptor habitat and perhaps the monarch butterfly. In some eucalyptus groves, there is monarch butterfly issues as well. So it's not something we're going to take lightly. And I'm happy to be able to turn that one over primarily to Matthew's crew to work through that, and Jill's crew to talk about it through the master plan. They just tell me when they want it built, and we'll work on it then.
John, as a major tree lover hugger, those eucalyptus trees are a fire hazard. And with what we're dealing with our drought and everything else, I don't see how anyone, honestly, when we say we need to take it out because of fire hazard, forget it, like all those other things are significant, but they don't get to the level of what we're dealing with now every summer, every season, and it's only getting worse. And so what? We should have the most volatile trees that would go up in an instant if something caught fire, and then everything around it. No, I think that the case for taking them out is stronger than anything else.
And we've engaged an environmental consultant. They're going to help us understand what's out there. An arborist is going to go and look at the trees. We're doing a full blown process here. This is not a small process.
Yeah.
And I think it's important to note that we only own about half of the properties that have the eucalyptus trees on them there. There's a bunch of private property as well. So that's a bigger issue. The last piece, Vice Chair Stamper, you mentioned the bicycle, for lack of a better term, I'll call it a pump track. They've been popping up all over the community, the coast side. We're aware of it. We've seen it. It is impressive. And the architect firm that we've been talking about for the initial part of this, they understand we want to look at how do you incorporate that into the long term. And then I'm meeting, I think this Friday or early next week, with a group, the Santa Cruz Mountain Bike Association. They're apparently, a couple of them are from Half Moon Bay on their board, the ones I'm meeting with. And apparently they are experts in pump track and bicycle track design and how to get it done. They actually bring manpower and funding and all types of things with them. They helped the county with the Quarry Park site and others. So we're hoping over the next couple of months to better understand what's there and whether or not it's been built in such a way that we can just keep it and legalize it, or if we need to work with the community to make changes. But we recognize how important that park is to the community, and I'll talk about it later when we talk about priority setting. But we know that a pump track is something that is really desired on the coast. The county's working on theirs at Quarry Park. I know there's talk about some others in the mid coast, and ultimately we'd love to have one in Half Moon Bay, and so that might be the site. So more to come on that, but that's why we've kind of out of nowhere shifted to Seymour Park as a priority, because when you take the council priority of the community garden that already has a lot of momentum behind it, and then as we start to look at it, there's a lot of other opportunities at that site. We're going to go ahead and move it forward.
Good, very good, Matthew.
I think this is a perfect example of why master plans are not and should not remain just stagnant. The pump track never came up as far as I can recall, and in the conversation and when we were going through desires. I could be wrong, but I don't recall it. It certainly didn't hit a high note in that process. And so, as we work through this and we start to engage the community, and this becomes an issue of interest and everything with that, we should really go back in and make sure it's reflected in the master plan, so we can start to show that and evolve with the community and their wants and needs. I think it's also an opportunity to talk a little more about the beach volleyball stuff as well. So I think, I think that's something we can put on the back burner, but we need to do that and continue to recognize those things. So from the Parks Master, the implementation program side of this, most people, they're saying, well, what does this mean? So we would like to put a new swing set in at Ocean View Park. There's a need for an additional piece there. There's kind of a blank area where there used to be one. We had to take it out. We moved things around. We didn't have the money in the project budget for the bathrooms. So we were asking for funding to put that back in. And if we can get maybe another piece of equipment in there, that'll be great. We'll try to work it out and deal with that. We're looking to deal with the auto locks at all the park restrooms. They are in place across the street at MacDutra. And basically the doors release and they lock and then they unlock at a certain time, however we deal with it. It saved us a ton of time, effort, and frankly, a lot of calls from the public screaming about the bathrooms not being open. And I know we had some restrooms not open at Smith Field with Little League going. There's several reasons behind that, but I'll say these auto locks would take care of that problem and we wouldn't have an issue with it. So that's something we're looking at. I know it's not sexy, but it is important and necessary, I think, to make sure that those are maintained and not being destroyed overnight by naughty folks. We're also looking at constructing an entry area to the day rooms. This is something we committed to with the Boys and Girls Club. So it's something that we need to work on and deal with. Again, it's not going to affect a lot of folks and everything in it, but it benefits both us operationally to allow the day room, the South Day room, to be used by the city and other groups, and not interfere with the work that's going on and with the Boys and Girls Club. And then overall, what this does, and what I said earlier, is it allows us to kind of deal with minor improvements and repairs to the existing facilities. So when our friends go and make firewood of our fencing, this provides us a funding source to go repair, replace, and put in new fencing and things of that nature. If we have a piece of equipment break, we can repair it, we can replace it, we can deal with it. A slide breaks, cracks, we can replace it. We have that here, and kind of dealing with that. So that's what that is, and what we're looking at in 21, 22. I mean, we could probably create a much more exhaustive list, except that we have to recognize what funding we think is going to be available and how it's balanced out among 8 different areas, or particularly 7 different areas that are competing for this money. Questions?
So are we saying that there's nothing on here for, or did I miss something, or is there just no, we're not addressing Carter Park at all in
Nope.
21 and 22?
21, 22, Carter Park is identified as an unfunded project. It's in the CIP, it's in the capital improvement program, but it's now an unfunded project. We completed the funded piece of that. It is now an unfunded project, but will remain in the program, because every time we look for grants, they want to know, is it something that's prioritized by the council? Yes. But we've already invested over $1 million in that project at this point.
And is there no way for us to, because it's all in pieces, is there no way for us to just decide, okay, we're going to take this piece, whether it's the stage, playground, whatever it is, and focus on that to actually get something going, and of course include friends to help us with some fundraising, as well as the city's participation, kind of a joint thing where we actually put some money, we put something towards Carter Park? Because I feel that if we don't, we just can like have this unfunded project go on for years and years.
So if and I think I don't think anybody would disagree with what you're saying from staff. We've had many conversations of a similar nature. If there is a consensus, or three of plus your, or plus 3 of the commission who want to send that message, we will convey that message to the council. What I heard is a request for the council to start to establish a capital reserve fund for Carter Park, to start saving away the money to be able to start to do at least phase 1. And I would call that similar to what we did with the library. That would be my recommended motion if you were looking to do one of that nature, because that's exactly what the council did 8 years ago or so. They started putting a few $100,000 a year away into that fund, and they end up with $6 million, and they allowed us to move forward with the rest of it and allow us to leverage that with grants and loan monies with it. So
here's what I'll say, just from the city manager's office perspective, is you're exactly right, Chair Ison. We're going to need to put some money towards the actual construction, so that we have a match for any grants we get. There's 2 pieces here. One is, it is designed in phases, but the first phase really has to be done first, which is all the earthwork and building the seating and the restrooms. And that's a multi-million-dollar project. And obviously, we're not in a position to even talk about that as a city right now. You could basically spend all the money that we're contributing towards all these other projects to get started on that project.
Yeah, you couldn't even fund the entirety of it.
Yeah.
Can't we start, wait a minute, Matthew, can't we start with the stage?
I don't think so, because right now, the way it's oriented, you can't really take advantage of that hillside right now without other work being done. And so if we built the stage in its permanent location, you'd have a very, very small viewing area. You know, that's
The
why we
site-
put the stage where we do
the-
for the concerts.
Plain and simple, the site has to be mass graded out, utilities put in to serve for restrooms,
true, yeah.
lighting, all the things, drainage, stormwater issues, everything with that. It just has to be done that way. And, you know, phase one is like a $3.5 million piece of money, I think, with that deal. And I'll give you a perspective on that, and the challenge that the council's going to be faced with and the community's going to be faced with is that we are in the process of we have $1 million loan proceeds coming for the corporation yard after we bought 880 Stone Pine. With at probably a total price tag of around $3.5 million, we could build our entirety of that corporation yard. So one of the challenges that every council has and every community has is that you know, which one, you know, we want both of them, but if you have to choose, how do you prioritize what over what? And I'm not saying that the corp yard wins in that one. I'm just saying it's close and near and dear to my heart, but I also know what the price tag is looking like. And it comes in almost, you know, right around where phase one looks like it would come in with Carter. And that's the challenge. You know, throw in let's say we were reconstructing the entirety of the trail out at from the existing trail all the way from Poplar to Kelly. It's about a $2 million undertaking. We're talking about with the council right now with all projects in the capital program, $2.5 million. So that one project to go in and completely redo that and deal with that would take up almost all of what we've allocated, we're proposing to allocate this year for that. That's the challenge of this. And if you've gone to the NET program, we talk about this with the NET program in terms of how do you balance all this out. That's the tough part. You know, that's why only a few people will run for council.
Yeah, no, it's very
Here's what-
tough, and I know that, you know, it's very hard to juggle all these things. There's no doubt about it. But we do need to think about, like, the last big thing that happened in this community is the library. And it was big, it was very significant, and it gave the town a major boost on all kinds of levels. Okay, even the people who objected to it, doesn't matter. It was overall, it ended up being a big boost to the town on so many different levels. For of course the beauty of the building itself, the usage, all the community groups that use the library for their meetings, it just goes on and on. It was one of those things where the Half Moon Bay community felt like the city really helped to do something for the entire community. And it wasn't just for this group, or that group, or just taking these separate groups into consideration. It was for the entire community. And I feel that 4 years later, it's time for another project that is going to really benefit the entire community. I think it's important in a city's life that you have this injection from time to time of things where the entire city feels like, hey, this city staff, this council, this city staff are really interested in doing something for the entire community and not just specialized groups. And Carter Park is that project.
Yep. So of course we're exhausting everything, going after grants and federal funding and state funding, working with all of our state and federal legislators, going after money for this project. We've finally received the completed construction drawings. And so one of the things I'm going to recommend later in this meeting is bringing those to this commission at a future meeting where we can really get everybody up to speed on what is actually included in the project, similar to what we did a few months ago, but now we have the final drawings.
Right.
And at that same meeting, I think that's the opportunity to bring the friends forward to start talking about a fundraising strategy for this. Things like naming opportunities and how we pursue private investment in this. And then to John's point, we probably do need to create a capital fund where we can start putting money away. And we're not out of the woods yet with our budget. I think John's mentioned that. We're doing better than we had hoped. We're doing better than we were last year, but we are not even back to where we were pre-pandemic. And so I think we still have a couple more years to dig ourselves out of this. And so every even $100,000 that we throw towards that project in a savings account is $100,000 that's not being put to use on some other projects that have been canceled or put on hold. And so that's part of the juggle too. But at some point, we'll get to that point where we're back to full operations. We're doing all of our core services, and we start funding additional things. And keep in mind that the TOT increase that was approved by voters last year will kick in, and we'll start to see hopefully our estimates realized, where we're not just back to where we were, but we actually have more revenue coming in. And then our council will be in a good position to talk about putting money into a savings account, for lack of a better word, talking about a financing. This is a great project for financing, similar to what we got for the corporation yard, from the state, very low interest, great community benefit. And if we have these great revenues that we know are going to get us paid off, and we're not putting ourselves in a bad financial position, the council can make some of those decisions. We're just not there today. Unfortunately, we finished the design and the planning for this project at a time where we're still rebuilding. So,
Right.
I don't think anybody disagrees with anything you've said, Chair, and I think we all understand how important this project is for the community. Unfortunately, any funding we allocated for it this year was not going to be used for anything other than saving for it, and took away from the other projects that John's talked about tonight.
Yeah, thank you, Matthew. Hillary?
Sorry, I just want to make sure I understand if then the projects that you have on your bulleted lists, do we have money for them or not?
What we're asking for is the money for these.
Okay, and
For the council, the council a couple of weeks ago considered the list. They said, these look reasonable. Your request is reasonable. We hear from finance. They think that they can basically meet about 2.5 million or so. And so so budget. So what they told finance to do is try to budget the roughly 2.5 million in, with all the other costs and all the other expenditures and revenues coming in, and come back at June 1 meeting and tell us whether it needs to come down, reduce a little bit, or otherwise. What I can tell you is they've already been doing some of those numbers, and we actually had to go and modify a little bit of what our approach was to reduce some of the absolute cost right off the get-go. And that is, we've created a list of projects that we were hoping to fund fully as of July 1. What we're suggesting is a group of smaller projects that we will look at and come back to the council at mid-year budget and review with them whether the financial situation is stable, improved, and then we can move forward with those items as well at mid-year budget. So we've had to even adjust the approach that we're doing because of concerns about revenues, frankly.
Did we get funding from the federal government? Because or how did that work?
Yes, we have 1.2 million coming from the federal government, and that is programmed into all of these considerations. So without that, we'd be even farther in the hole on where we could spend money.
We would be back at probably where we were last year in terms of around $1 million in it. So realistically, because this is the place where you cut. It's the easiest place to cut. So for a year or two. Okay.
Yeah, very good.
All right.
All right. So that leaves me to. So so if any other questions or whatever, first of all, you know where to reach me. I'm around. You know my number. I'm
There's
happy
one thing, John, that I
to answer them.
do want from you, and maybe for next time.
Mhm.
is I'd really like a complete, from the Ritz-Carlton all the way to, let's say the harbor, the trail, the coastal trail. I'd like us to have a comprehensive where, which part belongs to Coastside Trust or Post, which part, is Half Moon Bay, which is the county, which is the state. Can we get kind of a delineated piece of information on that trail that shows the different jurisdictions over what portion, from where to where? I think it's important for our commissioners to fully understand everything about that.
And John, we actually, Eddie and Nicolette put that together earlier this year. So we have something there. We'll work with you guys to get it probably a little better,
We'll work on
better
it.
form. But yeah, we've got that already.
Yeah.
So we
And
can
I'm,
work
you know,
together.
all I was going to say is we could certainly pull that together if it hasn't been. It won't be, it won't be the most gorgeous piece of information or anything with all the details, but we pretty much know who the ownership is. I'll tell you a quirky one. Most people think we own it, we control it. It's the piece by where the Casamira townhouses are leading into Murata Road there. And that actually is an extension that when that map was created and approved and adopted, the state parks agreed to own and maintain that piece of trail there that's been subject to the erosion issues.
Oh, really?
Most people come and ask us about it, and we say it's state parks, they accepted it.
Right.
So those are the nuance of this thing that's probably good to know.
Yeah.
So when people scream about it and say, why aren't you doing something about it?
Right, because I just
you know who to go to.
I just biked past there yesterday.
Yep.
Right where you're talking about. They've taken all those orange barriers and moved them inland. There's hardly any trail left.
Yep.
To go through. And then of course we've got the detour. I don't know what it would be nice to get an update on what's happening there. Is the work happening?
I think we could consider it part of the update on the parks and all these things and deal with it. I would suggest not having a detailed discussion about it, but I can give you a quick update of what I now understand the situation is, and it's pretty quick.
Okay.
But it's not a very good answer. You're not going to like it.
Oh.
Basically, our supervisor's office reported at the Government Affairs Committee meeting because this is public knowledge from that point, reported at the Government Affairs Committee for the Chamber of Commerce that the Coastal Commission has major issues with replacement of the bridge in situ, basically in the same place. They are interested in having it moved. I don't know that this is a surprise to any of us. It somehow was a surprise to the county. We have been talking to them, trying to get them to understand what it takes to work with them. So I'm frustrated on both sides of this issue because it was foreseeable and predictable where we would be.
Yes.
So at this point, they're looking at basically still trying to work with the Coastal Commission to get it in place. They're looking at they're looking at really the second option is leave it as is and forget the bridge and let it fall in on itself, I guess, and use the permanently, or at least relatively permanently, the detour away from the coast and dealing with that. So that's what I can report, and that's just what was reported to the group at the Government Affairs Committee last week.
Yikes.
So nothing good.
Nothing good, no. All right, thank you, John. Always thank you for your scintillating input here. All right, let's go.
I don't think it was scintillating, but thank you for your patience.
Regular agenda.
Great questions. Thank you. Really appreciate it.
All right, great. Regular agenda. Update from the Friends of Half Moon Bay Parks and Recreation. Maria.
Hello, everyone.
Okay.
Hi, everyone. Great to see you all, as always. So many good things going on at Friends. Like, it's so exciting. You guys know I've been on a little over a year now with the group, and I'm just so happy where we are now. I'm just really, it's exciting. And so anyway, I know you guys talked about the MOU last time in your meeting, and I was actually not on the call that night. But Matthew and I are meeting tomorrow, so I'm just going to give you, I can't give you many updates really on it, but we're meeting again tomorrow just to kind of go over some hopefully final details. And I'm excited about it, I think. And then hopefully we'll present it at the next board meeting to our board and go over it in detail with them and be done. That's what we're hoping. And also Matthew and I are meeting about a couple of gift things so I can close some gifts for the next topic, which is the best topic to talk about right now, Frenchman's Creek Playground. So I know it already came up tonight in the meeting, and I just want to pause everyone in celebrating it because we are not done with this campaign. And I want to make that very, very clear. So please do not go and tell every friend you know that we're in celebration mode, because next week is Coast Side Gifts. That has been our push. That has been our plan since day one, that we would be really pushing. So this next week, you guys are going to really hear about this. I'm going to send you all the email that's going out to all of our membership. It's going to go out on Facebook, on Nextdoor. I'm hoping Eddie will help me push it out. Hint, hint.
We'll push it out on all of our platforms.
I was just going to say, I'm hoping all of you, because I'm going to send you guys the email. We'll send it out to people you know in the community to make sure that they know. We have matching gifts for our Power Hour, which is from 4 to 5 p.m. We have matching gifts throughout the day. There's a lot of excitement. We're excited about it. I keep going on and I'm like, oh, someone else made a gift. Oh, how nice. Someone else made a gift. So there's a lot of excitement about it. I've done a lot of work in the neighborhood. I've talked to people in the neighborhood. I actually was just sitting here because Eddie just gave me a bunch of the leftover postcards that we had mailed. And I'm like, how can I use those? So we're going to be probably pushing those out in the next, week as well. Again, we did apply for some grants. So we're waiting on answers for those. They're not huge grants, but small, they're private foundations and companies that do grants we applied for. So we're waiting on some of those answers. I want to also point out too, that anyone that gives $1,000 or above will be listed on the donor wall in the park, which we actually have someone in the community that has offered to donate that piece of it. He'll build it. But we're waiting to see how that's going to play out, or the Boy Scouts. We're going to have them involved in it as well. So there's a lot of moving pieces, a lot of excitement still, and I want to keep the excitement going. So I'm hoping everyone on this call can help with that excitement and keeping it going. The other thing, there's so many other things I wanted to mention too. So that's all just good stuff. You can keep checking on our website. You can get all the details if you haven't seen on the part, the HMBPRC.org. All of the updates are there. When we did all those focus groups, we added comments, we added things for the neighborhood. It's actually funny, I get flashes on my phone when people click on, so I know who's clicking on all the time because I know where people live, so I kind of chuckle. But anyway, so it's all good stuff. It's really exciting. And I want to say thank you to all of you and to all of your support. Been starting to send me grants, and I want to encourage everyone in this group that if you come across grants that you think we could apply for anything related to Park and Rec, doesn't mean we can apply to everything, but Adam sent me 2 in the last 2 months. We went for one of them. We're waiting to hear, so we'll see what happens.
Oh, you're frozen, Maria.
About
frozen again. We're not hearing you.
Can you hear me now?
We
Yes.
can. Can you try turning off your camera? Sometimes that helps with just the audio side of it.
How about now?
Yes, good.
All right, good. Sorry, they're streaming in my house. The kids are all playing video games.
Yeah,
They gotta be distracted somehow, right? Anyway, so again, I want to say thank you to Adam. I want to encourage others to follow that leadership, and feel free to send me things if you think something could be interesting. We had a really great discussion about trails. So everyone's aware, usually the Friends group picks 2 big projects that they're working on at a time. Doesn't mean we won't fundraise for other things that come up, But, our focus right now is Frenchman's Creek. They want to, it's because the board wants to do it well. Like, they don't want to spread themselves so thin that we don't raise any money. And then the other one is now we're planning for Carter Park. So that was my next thing. I was just gonna say, we're getting ready to start, thinking about Carter Park. We had this discussion at the last board meeting, which was great, about should we be fundraising for trails, because we had the grant opportunity that Adam had sent me. But it just didn't feel like the right fit for this moment. So we want to start planning for Carter Park next. We had a great development committee meeting. We have this great development committee of people now that come together. Last month, we had a great meeting. We actually now have implemented or laid out a draft, which is we're going to share with the board next meeting, but a fundraising and communications plan, so that we're doing e-newsletters more on a regular basis and things along those lines. So that was really great. We had a great discussion about membership, because they had this whole membership thing, but I want to be growing that and growing donations and things. So that was a great discussion as well. So we've been looking at that, and that's all laid out on our website now too. So feel free to check out our website again. I know Raleigh Wright Scholarship comes up a lot in this group. And so in that plan, we started to talk about that in the development committee meeting as well. So we are laying out ways we can actually partner with you guys better on Raleigh Wright. So I'm feeling really good about moving forward with the Raleigh Wright Scholarship process. Eddie and I were brainstorming ideas in the meeting as well. So Eddie's on that committee, just so everyone's aware. And then Hillary hopefully will be able to join in some of the meetings or join in with us as well, and partner with us and cause some trouble with us. The last thing I just want to mention is that we did announce in the development committee meeting and the board meeting that we are taking car donations now. So people can donate their old cars, and then chunks of money will come to us to be distributed to different park and rec things. And it's not designated to something right now. It could be that we do different campaigns for different projects, but just so you guys are aware, it's on our website. It's super easy. We partnered with this great organization called CARS, and they do most of the heavy lifting, which is what we need because we don't have a staff or a big group to be able to take car donations. We just get checks, so that's great. And then we're just excited about the concerts and the summer ends concerts and partnering with you guys. So that's it.
Wonderful. Thank you, Maria. Any questions or comments? Okay, I just want to find out if, I know we have a couple of attendees in the participants. Is there any comment that anyone wants to make about this agenda item? If not, I will move on. All right, introduction, we are going to meet up with our Granada Community Service District. Hello, hello. Nancy, take it away.
Hi. I think when I communicated with Jonathan, this is just introduction, but I offered to, at your next meeting, give you an update on where we are with Parks and Recreation. I am Nancy Marsh. I was a member of the Parks Advisory Committee for GCSD from 2018 through 2020. I just joined the board of GCSD in December, and I'm still the kind of liaison and sponsor from the board for the Parks Advisory Committee, which isn't like your commission. Its role is to advise the board and mainly has been playing a role in community input. So we have a couple projects going. We have done a little dabbling in recreation, but as Eddie noted, the entire coast side is eligible to participate in the recreation that Eddie manages. Our value proposition for recreation would be local, and so people don't have to go to Half Moon Bay or don't have to go to Pacifica, but for that we need venues. So 95% of our attention is on developing venues, and I'd be happy to give you an overview next time on Burnham Park and where the development of our 5-acre park is, and our efforts at locating, perhaps acquiring a community center very close to the park. We're looking at the old El Granada Fire Station, which is not yet, but it's proximity to park. I understand from Eddie and Mike Perez, who we're very grateful joined us for a meeting in February to give us their community center experience. The proximity of community center and big park right across the street is a very desirable thing.
Yes.
That's mainly the thing we're focusing on. I was happy to come tonight actually to just establish a connection. Jonathan has made sure that all the rest of your meetings are now in my calendar. Just to start dialogue, build a relationship. We probably aren't in a position to collaborate on much of anything until we get further down the line with developing our venues. Our local recreation tends to be local history walks, nature walks. Those are the things that we're getting the most uptake, that and cleanups. We might try a few skate ramp concerts this summer and use our jetty skate ramp as a little stage and the parking lot as our venue. But until we have venues, we don't have a lot that we can put on locally. So we're real focused on this, but I can, if you like, give you a big update on that next time.
It's great to meet you.
Great to meet you. Yeah, go ahead, Adam. You have questions?
Well, it's just I see
Comments?
that there's I see there's work going on in that Burnham Strip area. I've always thought, and I don't know if you were here for the beginning parts, but that beach volleyball courts in that strip would be an amazing piece because people can see it from the road, and I feel like it's close to the beach. So I'm just throwing that out there because we still don't have beach volleyball access in Half Moon Bay either. So it seems like just a great location for it.
You know, just before I joined, there was a group trying to, looking for support, putting up beach volleyball at the Harbor Beach in front of the beach hotel. And they were offered funding from GCSD to put that all together, and they kind of just flagged after a while. But you can go on granada.ca.gov and see we just finished the master plan for the park. Kind of low profile, so preserving the views was one of the most important things, but the master plan, which is now entering its design phase, which takes forever, is on granada.ca.gov.
Okay, I'll check it out.
Okay.
What is the group of who was looking at the beach volleyball?
I don't know, but Hillary, I can try to find out because it was.
Thank you. That would be great.
That I joined the Parks Committee.
Yeah, I know of like most of the people involved in the volleyball community here on the coast and was not really aware of this. And so yeah, so it'd be important to find that out in order to make sure that everyone is coordinated, because I know there's a very strong interest in beach volleyball courts in the volleyball community. And if we're somehow not including people, that's a problem. We should make
so
sure.
that's a perfect example of something I want to bring up to you, Nancy, is I'm so glad you're here tonight. Hopefully, maybe it would be great if you actually attended our meetings in the future, you know, so that
I do have them on my calendar just so that because I'm going to learn a lot from them.
Yes, exactly. So that what Hillary just brought up, something like that, would be something you'd be able to be that liaison. You'd be able to maybe, you know, put people in touch with each other that can work together to make something happen. But it means being aware, you know, you need to be aware that, yes, we're enthused about beach volleyball. Then you find out you have people in El Granada enthused, and, you know, you can start to bring people together, and, you know, that's what makes things happen. So that's one thing. The other thing is, I'm wondering, Eddie, I don't know, do we ever put in our guide, you know, information about what's happening at the El Granada Recreation?
We haven't had very much at all happening yet. So we actually put in our little newsletter some of Eddie's offerings.
Because but even if you had, let's say you're offering a class for a guided, you know, bird watching thing or something like that, whatever it is, why wouldn't somebody from Half Moon Bay, you know, potentially be interested in that if they knew about it? As you know, and let's say, so there's some way that we should have a little more collaborative thing so that there's more of that whole coast side recreation availability to everyone who lives on the coast side, regardless if they're specifically in Half Moon Bay or in El Granada or whatever, so that we have crossover.
Yeah, similar to Eddie's presentation, we are doing everything just in time kind of this year as we see what opens up. And using our website, but I know Pat Tierney, who's the chair of the Parks Advisory Committee, and Eddie stay in touch, but we can definitely, when we have something scheduled, we'll certainly cross-reference that information with you.
Great, great. All right, anything else? All right, we will go on to thank you so much. And thank you again, Nancy, for coming and being a part of our meeting here tonight.
You're welcome. I'm going to hop off now, but
Thanks, Nancy.
Okay.
and I'll
All
see
right.
you again.
Take care. Bye-bye. So after that, we've got decorum. Oh, this is now very, all right. Decorum and procedure reminder. Let's get serious.
Things are going to get very official now.
This will be very brief. Basically, I just want to remind everyone that if you're going to be to the commissioners, if you're going to be absent, just please let the chair know. Please let Paulette know. It's important that she knows because she's running the meeting. So just want to remind you of that. And also for Brown Act considerations, please keep your screens on whenever you can, because once you turn your screen off, you're technically not at the meeting anymore. So if we happen to have 3 commissioners and we lose someone, we have to call the meeting. And that's what happened last time. So just as a reminder, if you can, please always have your camera on. And that's it for me.
All right, thank you, Jonathan. Important information. It's only once a month. Let's make sure that we come to these meetings. I know it is helpful for our city staff to hear from us, as well as helpful for us to hear from city staff. So it goes both ways. So it's important that once a month you make it a priority to be at this meeting. Speaking of priorities, that is our next topic, 2021 priority setting.
Ms. Chair, I believe the Vice Chair had her hand raised on that.
Oh,
It's fine.
sorry.
Never mind.
Oh, okay.
It's okay.
Okay, well, I'm excited to bring this forward. It's unfortunate that we're still missing a commissioner tonight, but I think this is a conversation that's going to continue to evolve, and hopefully what I bring to you tonight is a little bit more clarity. As you recall, a couple months ago at the meeting, I believe in February, we started a discussion, actually at the January meeting, and then it continued into February. We had a discussion about priority setting, and I think I've compiled what I heard from you and what you discussed into what I think represents what you're looking for. And of course, we can continue to talk about it. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. And Jonathan, can you give me access?
Be good to go.
Great, got it. I did not put this into a PowerPoint. It's in a Word doc. That way, if we want to make changes to it on the fly, we can do that. And then this will be something that I can provide to you later. So I wanted to start tonight just by updating you on the council priorities. So as you know, there's an annual process that the city council goes through to identify its strategic priorities. We have a strategic plan, and it's got 3 components. We have strategic elements, which are very high level aspirational goals, very general, that need to be thought about anytime we're making decisions. And so that's things like, we want a healthy and safe community. We want to be collaborative and inclusive. We want to focus on infrastructure and being financially sound. Those are strategic elements. Past the strategic elements, we have our annual priorities, and this is 4 or 5 really high level topic areas that we want to focus our efforts around each year. And I do want to remind you that or maybe not remind you, let you know, we could get rid of council priorities and our city staff would be very busy all the time, because there's all the day-to-day work that we do. You know, our maintenance workers are doing maintenance work. Our engineers are doing, planning the engineering side of maintenance work. Our planning staff are getting building permits, and they have to go out and do code enforcement. Every department is very busy. And so the council priorities are very focused, because anytime we shift towards those priorities, they're being shifted away from our day-to-day normal activities. And so we have a pretty thorough process to identify those priorities. The third component of the strategic plan is the capital improvement program that John shared with you tonight. So each year we go through this process with the council where we hold listening sessions and gather community feedback. And then the council meets together to talk about what they've heard and what they've seen and looks at priorities that can be focused on over the next couple of years. And so this session was held back in early March. And the 5 priorities that they actually landed on 4 priorities, and then a 5th was added because there's a major project that we have to do this year. And it makes sense to make it a focus of city efforts for the year. So the first is affordable housing. That's been on the priority list for several years, and we continue to make efforts around affordable housing. The adoption of the land use plan is a huge part of this. When that was adopted and then certified by the Coastal Commission, it made several properties within Half Moon Bay eligible for housing that had not previously been eligible for housing. They're mostly concentrated in the downtown area. It made religious properties, school properties, city properties, all eligible for, as long as they meet other criteria for affordable housing. And so there's a lot of work that will go on around affordable housing. As I go through these, I am going to share some of my perspective about how this impacts Parks and Recreation. When you talk about affordable housing, you'll note that most times that affordable housing is built, there are usually recreation elements as part of it. And sometimes affordable housing is built as a requirement of a larger market rate housing development. And typically one of the requirements of that type of a project, again, is public recreation spaces. And so having affordable housing and building housing in Half Moon Bay as a priority gives us more opportunities to have those types of resources provided and built that we don't currently have. So if there's a large parcel of land and somebody wants to build a development there, there will be an opportunity for us to work with them to design and include public recreation amenities as part of that development. And that way, development in Half Moon Bay provides benefit to folks other than those living in that community. It provides a benefit to the rest of the community. The second priority is public health, safety, and emergency preparedness. Emergency preparedness has been on the list for several years. We're making efforts around planning and emergency evacuations. And this year we're focused on a hazard mitigation plan that everybody in the county is working on and will help us address hazards and emergency situations here on the coast. As a public health and safety plan, there will be opportunities for public recreation and, we're talking about mental health. Well, a big component of mental health that's been brought up many times is making sure you've got a robust recreation and community programs so that people can work together. So there's going to be some opportunities under that priority. Community climate resilience and sustainability. Again, open space, outdoor spaces, protecting our open space and agricultural lands all play into that, which tie into recreation. Economic recovery and development. As you know, we've engaged a program called the Coastside Recovery Initiative. And as part of that, we have a task force. And that task force is focused on developing recommendations and doing research to help us move forward economically, but as a community towards recovery from the pandemic and a better community in the future. Several of these groups, their work will touch on recreation, and I suspect at some point we may be able to connect the commission and these groups together. One of the groups, Team Vibrant, we're calling them, they're looking at how to create vibrant public spaces, both in the downtown of Half Moon Bay. This is a coastside-wide effort, so it also will look at the harbor and downtown Pescadero. And so obviously having vibrant spaces includes outdoor recreation and gathering spaces. There's a group, Team Eco, which is looking at how to leverage our to continue to protect and then leverage our open space and agricultural lands for the betterment of the community going forward. So there will be some opportunities under economic development and recovery to work with you all on recreation opportunities. And then the final priority is redistricting. It's something we legally have to do, but it basically will take our city clerk's office most of their attention for most of the year because it is such a large project. So I just wanted to provide that to you for context. The council's already decided on these priorities. Staff is working on the actual implementation plans for each of these over the next 2 years. And we'll present a draft of that to the council at the May 18th council meeting. And then if it needs tweaks, we may come back in June to finalize it. The next thing I'd like to share is based on the discussions that we've had, the priorities that you have set for the coming year. And so I have commission priorities, then I have future priorities / opportunities, because sometimes something is not the top priority right now, but there's something that happens with funding or a partnership or something changes and it makes sense to jump on an opportunity. So I want to call that those opportunities. And then the final category is collaborative information, collaboration, and future meetings. And as I go through them, you'll see, and hopefully you'll recognize the ideas that you shared and the things that you talked about. So commission priorities are the things that you as a commission and we as staff will work with you on over the next year to make sure we're bringing you information, that we're focusing our efforts around it. And hopefully we make significant progress on each of these this year. We've already talked today about Carter Park development. Some of the things that we'll be working on for that, of course, is continuing to pursue grants and funding, working with the Friends on a fundraising plan and community outreach, so that hopefully sooner than later, we can really move this forward. At this point right now, we're still in a position that if we were able to get a large sum of funding from a private donor or from the state, enough to fund one or more phases of this project, we could begin work on this project in October of this year and have at least one phase of this project completed before we would normally use the park next summer. So we're really in a good position here, but we are going to need to be aggressive to pursue funding opportunities and put us in a position to start that development. So that's why I think you identified it and staff considers it a priority. The second one is the MOU that the city and the school and the Boys and Girls Club have been working on. It was something we were close to completing before the pandemic hit. It's been put on hold and remains on hold. But my expectation, and based on my conversations with the superintendent, is that as this school year winds down and they're able to focus their attention on normal school activities for the following year, we'll make significant progress on it this summer. And some of the opportunities we know will immediately come from this are things like access to tennis courts, which the city does not have right now. We don't have a single tennis court that we control or can offer classes or programming on. And what we've been talking about will give us access to tennis courts for camps, lessons, open tennis play so that the community can just go and use a tennis court, pickleball, outdoor pickleball opportunities. So that's one component. The gym, the pool, of course, is one of them, 95% there. The gyms, so that we can do things like basketball leagues and open gyms and camps inside some of the great facilities our school district has. Because again, a basketball court is not something the city has any access to right now. I think we're in a pretty unique situation. I don't know the history of why we've come to 2021 and the city has so few recreation facilities. But our goal is to make those facilities more available to the community. So that's something we'll be working on, and hopefully this summer we'll be able to give you some updates and some really great progress. As has been mentioned, our relationship with the school district has increased incredibly with Sean McFetridge being hired as a superintendent. We have a good relationship with their board and their assistant superintendent and the Boys and Girls Club also. Eddie's done a lot of work to partner with them and make our facilities available to them, which I think has softened the situation, and we're in a good position to have use of all those facilities in the near future. One thing you've talked about and I think would be important, and we're committed to moving forward, is some community engagement around recreation, including maybe a survey or some listening sessions to get a better feel for what our community wants and expects from recreation and how we could best offer those things to the community. The Johnston House MOU, again, something we were making progress on and then came to an end around the pandemic. For those of you who don't know, the Johnston House property, I'm sure everybody knows what it is and where it is. It lies outside of the city limits. It's actually in the unincorporated area of the county. But going back a couple of decades, the county deeded it over ownership of the property to the city. And the house that was, the dilapidated house that was on the property was rebuilt by a community group that eventually became the Johnston House Foundation. It literally was, it collapsed. There was nothing there but a foundation. And what we see today is the result of decades of blood, sweat, and tears and money from that foundation. It's furnished by that foundation. They've done incredible work. That being said, it still is city property, and there is no agreement for the management or the way it's operated. And I think we've learned a lot from the work we've done with the Half Moon Bay History Association as they've taken over management of the jail and started operating the museum there, and are getting ready to start construction on the larger museum project behind there. And we need to get into a similar arrangement with the Johnston House Foundation for a couple of reasons. One is we just need to establish who owns what and how it's managed. But I think it's been made abundantly clear by staff, by the council, and by you that we expect more from that property. We expect more access to the public, more educational opportunities, and more activation of that site than currently exists. And we believe an MOU is what it's going to take to push them to get to that point. I will say we continue to have difficulty engaging with them, but I think I made some headway actually earlier today, and I hope to know more in the coming days. And I think one of the first steps that we've talked about is getting them to come to the table with you to talk about who they are and what their abilities are, so that we can think about what we can actually ask of them and what maybe they can't provide that we need to find someone else that can. So that remains a priority, and I think a great opportunity for the community. And then finally, the public art policy. The art deaccession policy, with your help and your guidance, was approved by the council last week, which was great news. It allows us to move forward with dealing with some of our older artwork that is in bad shape and maybe not in the right places. Now we move forward with the public art policy. Victor Gaitan from my staff has already started drafting that, and we'll work with you to help refine it and identify what we want there. That policy will address how we get new public art, where it goes, how we decide on what it is. And another thing we're going to look at is how to create a funding source for public art, either through art impact fees with developments or some other sort of funding mechanism, so that the city will actually have a fund, and then we can commission artwork, we can take proposals for artwork. And I think this commission is going to play a really important role going forward. We've, through the art deaccession policy and some other efforts, we've started to forge a better relationship with the Coastal Arts League, who are really eager to work with us. And so that's another one where I could see them coming to one of your meetings, and we talk about what we need to do here in this community around public art. So based on our discussions before, those were the things that were important to you that I feel in my role are doable and can be focused on and prioritized and accomplished during this upcoming year. The next group are things that you mentioned that we all agreed are important and we're excited about them, but they're really not developed enough to make significant progress on. And so I call these future priorities or opportunities. Earth Day activities. We know that each April, Earth Day is a big deal. Communities around us do really great events and activities around Earth Day, and it's something we want to step up here. This would be in collaboration with Public Works, who has our sustainability team that does other types of activities around, recycling and composting and things like that for Earth Day. I think there's an opportunity for us to work together to plan the recreational side of Earth Day activities, whether it's nature walks, educational tours, and whatnot. So future priorities, because we're talking about 2021, I think as we get towards the end of the year, we can start really honing in on this, and early next year, do some really great planning with Public Works. The beach or sand volleyball courts, we've talked about several times tonight. It's clearly bubbling to the top of priorities in the community. Finding a site has been difficult. it's possible, as was mentioned tonight, that the Seymour Park, Magnolia Park might be an opportunity. We continue to push state parks for some of their properties. And then, these partnerships with folks like Granada Community Services and others might create an opportunity. And again, there's not a lot we can do with this right now, but if an opportunity arose, we could prioritize this and really focus some energy into making it happen. Bicycle pump track, another great one. We don't have a site that we've located or identified as a good candidate, but as has been mentioned also, the Magnolia Park might be an opportunity. And I'm excited about this meeting I'm having with the Santa Cruz Mountain Bike organization, who apparently bring funding, volunteers, volunteer labor, design services, the whole nine, to a bicycle pump track. And what I've learned is, much like a skate park, if you build it the right way and if you have the right signage, you can eliminate the liability for the city. And that's a really, really, really important factor, because we don't have the staff or the finances to monitor or staff a park like this. We can't afford probably the insurance that would normally be attached, but apparently there's some laws on the books that would allow us to develop something and make it available to the community. And if done in the right way, they use it at their own risk, which is how the skate park was able to be built. And then you talked about new and more inclusive events. I think this is much more in the opportunities as opposed to the future priorities. As we identify opportunities for new and inclusive events, we can talk about how within our workload and funding and community needs, we're able to move things forward. And then the last category is information requests, meetings, and collaborations. This is where we can at least get the ball rolling on some things and start forging relationships and discussions that can lead to some future opportunities. The first one, which I think kind of plays into the chair's question earlier tonight, is the coast-side-wide Coastal Trail Planning Group. And the idea around this was to get the different entities that have ownership or responsibility for the coastal trail from wherever it starts up by the harbor all the way to the south end of town, and start figuring out how we can be more collaborative and thoughtful in its development and maintenance. Where I propose this starts is I've talked with Jill from Community Development and John from Public Works. And once this new BPAC is seated and got themselves oriented and set up, we'd like to plan a joint meeting where we would bring their entire committee to one of your commission meetings, and it would be officially a joint meeting. And that whole meeting could be talking about, it could be a special meeting, it could be a regular meeting. That whole meeting could be dedicated to talking about this issue. And we can invite some of those community partners in and really get the discussion going.
Great.
Collaboration with the Granada Community Services District. We're already off to the races, thanks to Jonathan and Eddie, who have worked with them to get them connected. And it sounds like we've got a commitment from Nancy Marsh that she's going to try to attend our meetings. And I think there's going to be some good opportunities. While she was talking, I pulled up their master plan, and it's so exciting for the coast. And also it's like, oh, this is what I wish we could build in Half Moon Bay. They got the land that they needed, and hopefully they find the funding, because it would be an incredible asset to the entire coastal community. Another item that came up was the Mid-Peninsula Housing, Moonridge specifically, fields. As I think most of you know, Moonridge is a farm labor housing project at the end of Miramontes Point Road on the east side, opposite of the Ritz and Kenyatta Cove. That was built by the county and Mid-Penn Housing. It lies just outside of the city limits. They have a couple of sports fields there that unfortunately have fallen into disrepair and clearly are not used very often. And so there's been some ideas about partnering with them to create public use of those fields, maybe improve them and be able to hold some events and activities and leagues out there. I have engaged with the executive director of Mid-Penn Housing. He likes the idea and is open to it, but not right now. They have significant parking issues that extend well beyond Moonridge down Miramontes Point Road. And he indicated until they resolve those issues, they cannot have a discussion about bringing anybody, any community members or anyone else to the property and exacerbating that problem. So this is one I think we'll keep on our radar. He's promised that as that moves forward, he'll be in touch with me. Him and I talk on a infrequent basis about other things. And so we'll keep this on the agenda. And I think it's a great idea and a great opportunity that could benefit our entire community and Moonridge by improving those fields and getting them more activated. And then the final one that was on the list from our discussions in the past was the first night event. If you remember, this is a New Year's Eve into New Year's Day activity that can be really inclusive of the entire community and provide a lot of different options for, you know, adults and children and families and, you know, kind of anything that you want. It's something that's been discussed in the past with the Downtown Business Association and the Chamber. I brought it up at a meeting subsequent to hearing the encouragement on this again. They're excited about the potential for collaboration for this one. I would recommend that this commission create a subcommittee if it's something that you want to pursue. And that subcommittee starts working with those business groups and really determining if we can plan something for the end of this year. It's not something that the city is funded or staffed to pull off on its own, but I think with some community effort and collaboration, it could be done, and it could be a great tradition that we start moving forward. So hopefully that captured, I've gone through my notes several times. I think that captured everything that we talked about. And instead of throwing anything off the list, I think it just kind of categorizes it based on, you know, how realistic it is to take it on right now versus in the future, and opportunities to start working on all of them over, you know, in different ways over the next year. So I'm going to zoom out on it so you can see all of that now at once.
All right, Hillary, you've got your hand up. Here you go. But before you do that, Matthew, I think you did a great job in capturing our discussions and putting this together so that it's comprehensive. We really can look at it, and now we can discuss, you know, how we want to finalize this as our priorities. So excellent. Hillary, take it away.
Yeah, I agree. Thank you. This is very helpful to see everything out there. I don't feel like there's necessarily anything missing, but I just thought that I felt a little concerned not to see the coastal trail as a priority. And I know that, like, it sounds like maybe there's, I'm still a little confused about where, like, how much money there is for the coastal trail projects that were then mentioned earlier by John. But at a minimum, I feel like the coastal trail should kind of always be a priority, in that we need to be paying attention to problems that are arising and making sure that we are maintaining it, especially given the amount of traffic. So maybe you feel like this is covered by the way that you put it together, but that was really the only flag for me. I
think, Hillary, I'm just going to jump in on that one, because I think I love what you've come up with there, Matthew, in terms of bringing BPAC together with the Parks and Recreation Commission and players that are involved jurisdiction-wise with the coastal trail, so that I'd like to make that a priority to happen this year. But yes, that is a very important start. So we definitely want to start that. I'm totally with Hillary on this. And I think all of us, I don't know to whom the coastal trail is not important. Okay. Right. I'd like to find one person, but anyway, that's a great start to get movement in the direction of really focusing on doing everything we can for the gem of the coast. I mean, I've been on it recently, and I mean, there's nothing more beautiful in Half Moon Bay than springtime. Spring is the most beautiful season in Half Moon Bay, hands down, and riding or walking on that coastal trail and taking in that beauty is really just so special. But we need a trail where I don't have to keep looking down, scared that I'm going to fall or tip over, or the bike or me or whatever, because it is a mess.
Yeah. And what I'll say is, and I totally understand where you're coming from, and this is your list. you can direct me to move this anywhere you want it to.
Yeah,
Having it down here was never intended to say that it wasn't a priority.
Right.
You know, as we know, the Granada collaboration is listed here, and we've already done something with it. So
right.
it was more about, I try to compartmentalize things based on what the city has a lot of control over versus what is more collaborative and is going to take a wider effort. Now, say this group starts to meet and they realize, you know what, we need to put together a JPA or some sort of MOU. That's something that we could put as a priority, because then city staff actually has a project that they're working on versus just a collaborative effort. Does that make
Yes.
sense? And again, I'm happy to move it to priorities if you feel more comfortable.
That's
with being
helpful.
here. I'm just trying to compartmentalize these in ways that we understand, you know, what
Yes,
this commission priorities is what staff is going to work on based on the discussions we've had, because there's specific things we can work on around them. There's tasks associated with them.
right. Good, good.
Um,
Anyone
so
else?
can-
Because,
Wait,
go
can I just-
ahead.
One follow-up question on that, sorry, and then I'll stop.
Yeah.
talking. So what does that mean about the like Kelly to Poplar project? Because
Yes.
that is like a project
Yes.
that is known.
So I think it still was a little unclear when John finished his presentation, what is being funded there. So on the list of projects specific to the coastal trail, the work being done near the 16th green at the golf course, that's like we're putting money into fixing the coastal trail there. The trail exists, there's problems there, we're fixing it. The project that John was talking about that I think you were mentioning, the Poplar Gateways project is what it's called, is a major project that looks at the future of the coastal trail and its alignment in relation to the bluff deterioration and erosion.
Yes.
The parking lot, the circulation, the road, the entrance, the amenities that are all
Right.
part of what we call Poplar Beach. And so right now they're just in the planning stages of that. Kind of like Carter Park. We've been working on Carter Park now for what would you say, Paulette, 3 years?
It's certainly 2.5 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very actively working on
Great.
that project. And we just finally are at a point where we could even spend money on building something. You know, there's all the planning, all the approvals, all the environmental. That's what the Poplar Gateways project is right now. The result of that is going to be tens of millions of dollars of actual projects that can be implemented. Moving the trail and rebuilding the trail in a different location is only one of them. That can't start until the planning piece is done. And that's what John was saying would be done hopefully later in 2022, 2021, early 2022. Once the plan is done, then you start talking about implementation.
Okay.
Okay, anyone else? I've got some comments, but I'll be happy to entertain anyone else before I jump in.
Madam Chair.
Yes.
Hi, this is Pat over here. I just want to say it was very impressive today, very robust. That's how I feel, you know. We have a lot of work ahead of us, but I think it's been really done well and very clear and concise. And, you know, staff, Matthew, John, are always ready to answer questions. So I feel real confident. And I think that, you know, we have a beautiful place and all we're going to do is keep enhancing it. So, and I do look forward to seeing the trail repaired. I'm out on the trail 3 times a week, so I love it. And I feel very grateful to be here. And thank you all for a great job tonight.
All right, well, it's not over, Pat. So
I know. But tonight is over.
you know, because it sounds like
Phasing
final
out.
word, but we're not over. Okay.
No.
So here's what I would like input from the rest of you, because I'm struggling. I would like to maybe change something here and talk to me, everyone else, as to how you feel about it. I feel that this year, 2021, is not the time to do the community recreation survey and engagement. I feel that we should do that next year. This year, because of you know, the temperature and the climate, the everything that we're in, we there's two things that I would like to do for future priorities and put it into our priorities for this year. And one is possibility, because I'd like to keep it to 5. I would like to keep it to 5, but if we need to, maybe we can go to 6. But I prefer to say staying 5, is either new and more inclusive events, given the political, the climate we're in now. I mean, it's a big deal. So we may want to focus on that, and or Earth Day activities, because I want to talk about Smithfield this year, Earth Day, because I did go to Smithfield. I don't know if the rest of you did. I got some compost. We gave in our electrical thing. We did everything. Okay, that was possible. So it was, but the first thing, and I don't know, Matthew, if the planning or what the hell, but I arrived there were cars everywhere, and I thought, oh my God, what's happening? Is everyone here for Earth Day? No, hardly any of those people were there for Earth Day. They were there for softball, baseball. So who thought about this? Who planned this, that it should be together? I mean, even if we had it at Smithfield and had it from noon until 6, it would have been a lot better than 9 until noon. So planning, folks, very important. Making sure who's doing what and knowing, how to proceed with that. I love those components of our Earth Day. I think they're great. I think the people who come up and fill up with the compost and the shredding and the electric, all of that is great. Definitely want to keep having that happening. But I do think that we should expand Earth Day. It should be, to me, a bigger event. More education. There should be, I think, some educational component to it. I think there should be an entertainment component to it. I think there should be more of in our immediate environment component to it. So I think there should be it should be a bigger deal. The Earth is what we live on. Without it, we are not here. So it needs to be like a big deal.
Well, I'd like to say something. We had Earth Day 2 years ago, and it was exactly what you just requested. It was everything, and it was right by the library, and it came around the curve, and I mean, it was, everything was there, and it was fabulous. And I think this year, because it is this year, we got what we got. And I'll tell you, I was very impressed with city employees with directing traffic. And I was in and out. I got everything done I wanted to get done. I thought, for all the cars, because that's what it looked like. It was crazy with cars. But they did a good job of keeping everybody from running into each other, because they were going every different direction. But anyway, I think next year we're definitely going to see a Super Earth Day.
Well, in order to see it, we have to plan it, Pat.
Well, that's
in
right,
order to plan it, we have to make it a priority. So that is one of the reasons I'm suggesting we change.
They did a good job 2 years ago, because it was really impressive. I've been to my full share of Earth Day events over the years, and last year's was very impressive. And
last year, excuse me, Pat.
Not
last year was the same as this year.
No, the one before. It's 2 years ago.
Okay.
It was right by the library. It took up quite a bit. It was just very impressive. And I'm big on Earth Day. I grew up in a very environmental family, and so anyway, that was really impressive. And I think what'll happen is it'll get back to that eventually. Right now, we're in a state we're just coming out of, and we have a way to go.
I understand that. I'm talking about next year. I'm suggesting that we may put more of a focus on it. Can I get input also? Thank you, Pat, from the rest of our commissioners on what you think about my suggestion of changing that?
Yeah, I'll weigh in a little bit. So First of all, I'm absolutely down for the change. That makes sense. I hadn't thought about it beforehand. But that does make sense, I think, to push it off, even though this year is probably a good year to get input in some ways, because people are starving for activities, and they probably are kind of like,
Yeah.
it's top of mind, so I can go either way on that one, but I'm okay with it. But Earth Day in particular, I did, and I agree with Pat, like all the various things, but yeah, making that robust. Well, I brought the kids this year because I'm more used to what you're talking about, Pat,
Exactly.
and what you're looking for, Paulette. And they
Right.
came away kind of like, what was that? That was
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
they were like, where were the games? Where was the education? Where was the fun?
Yeah,
Where was the,
yeah.
that was just like pure, like, you can pick up compost and you can drop stuff off, and that's it. There was no,
That's it.
there was
Yeah.
no, there was no piece to it. And to me, that's great. I love being able to take care of those things, but I'm thinking of it as an event where I'm bringing my kids
Education.
to educate, and like to kind of like learn about the different things that like even other kids are doing around the world to like make a difference in their communities, and things they can be doing and ways they can be thinking about this stuff. And yeah, I'm sure that it was just COVID related, which is fine, but I'm definitely down to make that a much more robust Earth Day moving forward. I believe my understanding from being on council before is that something council supports a lot as well, and would be willing to put the financial backing towards, even just if it's like $10,000-$15,000. But we should definitely make sure we get the funds we need to support it, if that was an issue. And if that's not an issue, then we got to make sure that we make that more robust, more fun, more of an ability to bring the kids and get them involved.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, Hillary, input?
Yeah, I mean, I think I agree with everything. I definitely questioned the recreation survey when I was thinking about like what things to prioritize, just to, but I do agree with Adam as well, like it would be nice to get people's thoughts when they're all in Half Moon Bay. Yeah, so that's the only pause that I have there that I'm still kind of weighing.
Here's how I look at it, just to expand on it. We have priorities that we need to deal with, right now, and a lot of it has been delayed because of COVID, and we're still kind of limping into a possible, hopeful post-COVID world.
Right.
But we're not even there yet. So to me, it just seems too soon. And unfortunately, when one does, to me anyway, when one does these surveys, people start to have expectations right away. But you fill out the survey, you feel like, okay, I've told the city what I want, and I expect to see it. And that's not going to happen yet. So I feel it's premature. I don't really want staff to be working on this when I prefer that they work on getting a much better Earth Day together for next year. Because it takes planning, it takes time, and it takes planning. It doesn't happen, they're not going to be putting it together in February or January of 22. If there's just not enough time, things take a while to put all the pieces and all the groups and entities together that would be involved in something like that. So really the planning needs to start this year.
Yep.
Well, I mean, I think the other piece of it too that I was just considering was there have been information sessions as well where people have expressed priorities for, I mean, even in the general plan update process, people were given a lot of opportunities to provide feedback on what they cared about with the general plan, at least. And, that's where things like the pool, I think, and staff, please correct me if I'm wrong, but I think even things like the pool came up in some of these sessions. So we do have some community feedback, don't we? On
I think you're referencing the Parks Master Plan.
Was it the park? Okay, yeah.
The
So
Parks Master
And,
Plan, yeah.
and then there's also a bike ped master plan that talks about the trails in the past.
Yeah.
So yeah, there
So-
has been a lot of robust feedback. I think the one place that was missing that you guys had brought up, and again, we are open to tweaking this however you want, but it is on actual recreation activities and programs.
okay, well, so it might be then that we can use as a guide the feedback that we already have, and then
You know, I
postpone it.
don't know if we, sorry, I don't know if we have
we have-
this
no.
as part of our story. But the other part, in terms of at least starting to engage in that way, but not making it like a major to do, is that when you put out the recreation guide and it is on the website and people go to it to register, to look at what's available, is that there should be some spot in it, Eddie, is what I'm thinking, where it says, what other programs would you like to see in recreation in Half Moon Bay, so that they have an opportunity to give input.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea.
Okay, so
It could be like a
Absolutely.
simple
Yeah.
one word question. Are we missing anything? Tell us what it is.
yeah, what would you like to see? Yeah. So that's, I think I've heard from all the commissioners that are here. So let's have a little vote on this, a little informal vote. Do we want to change? Because I really do think it would be a good change, the Earth Day for the community recreation survey and engagement. Okay, so
Yeah. I make a motion that we submit information to our city council regarding our concerns about Earth Day.
I second.
okay, so,
All
Adam,
in favor?
Yeah, I actually like that idea.
Yeah.
okay. All right, so that sounds good. So Matthew, I'm with that. So let's look at that because
Oh.
that's really important. It's just we've still, in my mind, I understand Pat's input, but in my mind, we have never had the Earth Day that I still would like to see happen in Half Moon Bay.
Oh, interesting.
Okay. Because what I would like to see, Matthew, is sort of the combination of what, I forgot the name of the group, but that the other group did down at the Francis Beach, and what the city has done in their best effort on Earth Day. If we can somehow combine all of that, then we have a real Earth Day.
I
You
have
with-
one other
you with me,
thought,
Matthew?
too,
You know what I'm talking about?
When
Yeah.
we're done talking about Earth Day.
Okay. Go ahead, Hillary. Hillary, did you want to say something?
Okay. Yes. Here's my other question. With Seymour Park being mentioned as a top higher priority because the garden thing, is that something that I feel like we should be involved in that?
Yes, you will be heavily involved in that process. Those who
Okay.
were here during the Carter Park planning, you are the main, other than when we get to the planning piece of it, where we go to the planning commission, this commission is the main source of public feedback, public input, collaboration and discussion. And so, yes, you'll be heavily involved in every step of that process. Where we're at right now is just getting we have, like, as I mentioned earlier, we have an environmental group doing an environmental assessment of the property. We have to engage a surveyor to do a topographical survey so we can identify what's there, what's underground, what the lay of the land is. And then an arborist has to do a survey of all the trees. Once those are available, then the architect we're working with will help us start to figure out what elements could be fit into it. And then some concepts could be brought to you for discussion, and then we start community engagement. So yes, you'll be involved in every step of that process.
Okay. then do we want to have it as a priority since if we think we're going to be like working on it?
It's that because it's the Public Works owns the project, and then I'm working with Community Development and Public Works to move it forward. We could list it, but I don't think it has to be listed. It is going to move forward.
Okay.
But yeah, I think it doesn't hurt to identify it.
Yeah, I mean, I just like if I'm working on things to at least give myself credit for working on them.
You have a
Because
point
then it
there.
feels-
You have a
I
point
don't
there.
know.
Okay, in new and inclusive events, it's a future thing, but in the more immediate present or future, in more the immediate future, Eddie, is Eddie still with us?
Yep.
Eddie, hello. Yeah, Eddie, I'm wondering, in September, we've discussed this before, and I don't know if it's part of your plan. It didn't sound like it was part of the plan. The Mexican independence in September. One of those concerts should really be a Mexican independence concert with a Mexican band. Yes.
So
Mariana?
so that's actually a separate event from the concerts. And we're going to be working with All Us and other groups to help plan that event.
Oh, good. Okay.
Yeah, so
good.
so that is we're planning on it. It weighed into when we scheduled the Summer's End concert. That is in the
Excellent.
plan.
It's in the works. That's all you need to say. That's fantastic. I love it. Very, very good. Okay. The other thing that I think we have to put on future priorities, but I think we're going to have to deal with the post property. The court, the whole court, the whole thing up there, and what's going to be with the rest of that. All right. So now we're going to call it Stone Pine instead of the post. Stone Pine property. Okay, good.
It's ours, not Post's.
Yeah, so that's why it's like, okay, done. We're done.
I can give a little update. So we are
Okay.
working with an architect who's helping to master plan that site, but the focus of that work is really on the courtyard. We've got to make sure
Right.
it meets the city's purposes. And
Right.
then what it will start to show is what other areas of that property are available for potential open space recreation. I'll
Right.
let you know, the city council has asked us to look at doing a solar farm out there potentially. So there's a lot of ideas. And once we get through the higher level master planning and the courtyard site is moving forward, then similar to these other ones, we'll start an engagement process to look at how we can use the remaining portions of that property for recreation.
Excellent. Excellent. Okay.
So Madam Chair,
Yes,
are we going to be voting on anything?
we
Yes.
are.
We're going to vote on something.
We're going to vote on the priorities, right?
It'd be
Oh,
nice to
gonna-
get, some kind of a vote to certify
Okay,
what we've
can
done.
we get
Right.
that going? Can we get that going? Because I'm really fading.
Okay. So, can I get a motion to adopt the priorities as listed, the commission priorities portion? Yeah, let's get a motion to adopt those priorities.
Okay, I'll make a motion.
Okay.
To accept the commission's priorities as stated by Matthew today.
Okay.
You know?
All
Now
right,
we
I'm
need
gonna,
sec-
I'm gonna second, I'm gonna second, and so let's have a roll call vote on this, because it's an important thing.
Okay,
because
all in
it is
favor.
Our blueprint. No, not all in favor. Jonathan, let's do a roll call on this, please.
Okay.
Chair Eisen,
Aye.
Vice Chair Samper,
Aye.
Commissioner Black,
Aye.
Commissioner Eisen.
Yes.
Okay, the motion has passed. These are our commission priorities
Perfect.
for 2021.
Great. I'll clean this up and I'll get it over to all of you, and we'll include it with.
Thank you,
our
Matthew.
records. Thank you.
Fantastic,
if
Matthew.
there's-
Thank you very much.
If you're doing any other cleaning, one little request I have is to just reflect somehow what you said about the coastal trail, because I would hate to have someone look at this and say, why are you not prioritizing the coastal trail, when in fact we have addressed that in our conversations and our understanding of what this means. So That's just a small.
That's smart. That's smart, because if Hillary was not on this commission and this happens, she would be all over us. Where's the coastal trail in this?
Okay,
So-
here's one possibility, Matthew, is in commission priorities, we actually go back, amend our commission priorities and put that one of our other priority is to deal with the information requests, meetings, and collaboration section. That all of that is a priority that will be addressed. All of the that will happen, that no matter what, there will be meetings, requests, and collaboration, which, as you say, we already started with Granada, but that all of that will happen this year in some form.
I wonder if just moving that whole section up above future priorities and opportunities, so it's,
Yeah,
you know,
that's what I mean.
that whole thing, if I move it up, maybe
whole
that just
thing, move
shows
it
that
up,
like,
yeah.
here's what we're focused on this year. This bottom section is future opportunities.
Good.
Does
That yes, I think that says it very nicely.
Vice Chair Stamper, do you feel like that
Are you
kind
good
of
with that?
meets what you're thinking?
It meets what I'm
I'm
thinking.
having trouble thinking of how I could say what I said without writing a whole paragraph.
I know. That's what I'm struggling with too. I agree with you. Yeah, I mean, I think that's fine. I'm just trying to think if there's maybe a way to write that, the header even, that will, something along the lines of that will continue throughout the year.
You can make information requests, meetings, and collaborations a priority, a commission priority, and underneath that are the
Make
things that
sub bullets. Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah, there you go. Just make them sub bullets.
Yeah.
That works for me.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
I hope. Okay, thanks.
I'm going to stop sharing.
Before
Out of
we
sight,
do
out of mind.
anything more.
Very good. No, very good, Matthew.
Sorry.
That's good. Okay, future items preview. Is there anything there? Future items.
I will
future-
really quick. I'm just going to mention a couple of things.
Yeah.
And we've already talked about most of them. Well, actually, we've already talked about all three. So the BPAC joint information meeting, John and I have talked, that probably won't be till August or September, because they've got to get seated. They got to get approved, seated, oriented, and then we'll meet. The Granada Community Services District collaboration, she's already said she's coming back next month to
Yep.
share again, and she'll be coming back, so that's great. And then the Carter Park update, I expect maybe that could be even on our next agenda. We'll see if the friends are ready to really sit down and start talking about planning for fundraising. So either May or June for that. That's it.
Right, yeah, because that'll be, the next meeting will be post Coastside Gives, and that's probably when they'll wrap it up. Pretty much wrap up the Frenchman's the Creek thing. Okay, so that's good. Report outs. Commissioner comments. I have one of the comments I have, Eddie. I'm thinking it would be that Frenchman's Creek opening, for the first phase, and to Adam's point about advertising, making more of a big deal out of it. It would be good to get the maybe the high school band to come out and play, so that it's a whole hoopla.
Like a ribbon cutting kind of a thing.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, with the high school band, like get kids out there. Kids is the key.
Matthew, is that something that's kind of a standard operating procedure when we do something new at a park? 'Cause I know there was kind of something at Ocean View, but is that something that Public Works and planning, they already have?
It would actually be Jessica. It'd be the comms team that would help us plan that kind of an activity. So yeah, but yeah, it's typical. We don't do enough of it here, and we were making big plans again for Ocean View last year, and then COVID hit, and we know where we landed. So we did a little something for the stairs, the vertical access at Poplar. But yeah, we can certainly plan something a little bit bigger for this, and work with our comms team on planning that event.
Okay, good. Yeah. And the other thing I have is I still am looking for that big advertising, the big promotions every month on the fact that we have a recreation commission meeting and some kind of something to, some kind of header as to like what is going to be discussed, and therefore bringing people in for public comment. So that is still something I am wanting to see. All right. Who's going to make that happen? Let me hear.
Well, it's something we're doing now with council meetings, so I think we can replicate that and include it in. Now, you say big advertisement, we can put it up on all of our social media and our Nextdoor and our website.
And in the community, news.
E-news, yeah.
Yeah, e-news.
Yeah, there's precedent for that with council meetings now, so we can work with communications, and Jonathan's part of that team to
great.
start doing that for these.
Great. Okay, I think that's about it. I just wanted to get an update, though. I was thinking about the last time I think we talked, or was the time before, the issues at the skate park and the video. Can we get an update? How's that working? How's it going?
Eddie, I'm happy to do a quick update on this. Yeah, so Eddie and I have drafted a policy. If you're going to put up cameras, you got to have a policy because there's privacy issues and other things.
Right.
That has been shifted over to our IT team, who are doing some work on it with Public Works because there's facilities involved. It may slow down a little bit because cameras can capture staff doing work, which means we now have to engage the union probably on it. But I don't think it'll take too long because we're also engaged with the unions on some other things right now. And then hopefully Eddie's already identified the cameras, the cost, it's pretty reasonable. So I think we're pushing hard to get those up by summer.
Okay.
And I don't think we've had any other incidents. We talked about the fact that one of the individuals is no longer allowed at the skate park. I don't believe we've had any issues since that notice has been sent out. And hopefully, that's the case. And I'll say it publicly. I hope that next year when we meet with that individual and their family, that they'll be in a position where we can bring them back, because we don't want to take opportunities for outdoor recreation away from anybody. So
good. All right. So the only other thing I have is, how do we want to really attack these priorities that we have set tonight? In terms of the meetings, like how do we, like, so let's for instance say first night, you mentioned a subcommittee. I think that's actually a very good idea. But I mean, like for instance, next meeting, do we want to focus on that and get that going and how we're going to go about that? Or some other priorities. So in other words, it's one thing to set priorities. It's the other thing is to actually get chip away and start actually working on them. And so how do we plan for that?
What I would recommend is that we prioritize, or we identify this item again, just add this 2021 priority setting again, but add implementation to it. Now that we have the priorities set.
Excellent. I love it.
We start talking through implementation, and I can come prepared to talk about, again, what we're specifically working on these and what the next steps are. And then we can identify the next steps for you all, whether it's a subcommittee or meetings or whatever. So,
perfect. That's great.
Jonathan?
Yep.
Jonathan?
Yeah. Okay. Very good. All right. Fantastic. That's it for me. Anyone else? All right. So I think we're good. Meeting adjourned. Thank you all very much. Wonderful evening. Got a lot of things done here. Excellent work. And but we have a lot more ahead of us. Okay. Take care, everybody.
Thank you so much.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Good night.